Chapter 1542. Zuan, you tell us what kind of disaster the Gate of Origin will cause in the end. Far away in the Xianhuang Dao flag, Han Yuan fixed his gaze on Zuan and signaled for Zuan to explain the situation. The reason this meeting was held so quickly was because he had learned from Zuan that the great change that happened in the Jilin star zone might happen in Howren in the future. The meeting was held here because Zuan and the Gate of Origin were both here. Okay. When everyone's gazes shifted from the Xianhuang Dao flag to Zuan, he told the many supremes present what he had said to Yu Yuan and Yu Yu. He told them that when the Gate of Origin absorbed enough energy, it would eventually evolve into an abyss chaos hole. The abyss chaos hole's characteristic was that it could swallow everything it could. Most of the time, it would only appear in outer space. It was extremely difficult to track its trajectory, and it would suddenly disappear at some point. It was like suddenly appearing and sneaking around to hunt. It wouldn't exist for too long, and it wouldn't exist in a specific place. On the other hand, the abyss black hole that was formed from the Gate of Origin world seemed to be even more dangerous, and it could be controlled by someone to bring forth destructive might. The Jilin star zone's transformation into nothingness was the masterpiece of the abyss chaos hole. The Gate of Origin in the deep valley in front of everyone's eyes continued to grow. It would eventually become an abyss chaos hole that could swallow the entire Howren. After Zuan finished speaking, the Supremes from all over the place had ugly expressions on their faces. Through him, they learned that the Gate of Origin could become an abyss chaos hole. They also knew that after crossing the abyss chaos hole, they would arrive at the even more mysterious Gate of Origin. Below the Gate of Origin was the legendary abyss. It was a mysterious place that no one had been to for the time being. Even the great demonic god Bertans didn't rashly step into the Gate of Origin, although he had stood in front of it more than once. Howren is the foundation of all of us. If the calamity that happened in Jilin's star system is to happen in Howren as well, everyone, you may be safe and sound, but the people of Howren, the land, the valleys, and all energy will be wiped out. I don't think anyone can accept such a Howren, right? Zuan's eyes wandered around the crowd. Also, not long ago, Yan Qiling from the Shenhun sect and Zhou Yu from the Chamber of Commerce came over with news. Zuan exclaimed in a deep voice, "Another origin portal has appeared in the realm passage the space dragon created that connects the devil abyss of calamity to the forbidden land of the fallen moons." Another one? Qin Luo from the Red Devil School became the new speaker after Han Yuan and Zuan. Even the heavenly tiger, who had taken human form, frowned. He had learned about the strangeness of the origin portal through the demon phoenix, and he was worried about Howren. Yes, another origin realm gate has appeared. It seems like it will only form in places where space is extremely turbulent. The origin portal must have appeared in a deep valley where the Divine King Extreme Intelligence died. The spatial power inside the realm passage the space dragon created is just as vast and complex. Zuan explained before continuing, "The good news is that the new origin portal that appeared in the realm passage is still a long time away from stabilizing. It's just absorbing all kinds of energy from the realm passage to strengthen itself. Also, the realm passage is only one of the ways to enter Howren. We can cut it off if necessary. Therefore, the new origin portal is nothing to be afraid of for now. All we need to do is pay attention to the one in front of us." Then, Zuan, who knew that the heavenly devil high priest Reed had come, looked at Han Yunyuan in the Xianhuang Dao flag and asked the question Yu Yuan had asked before, "What's the relationship between the god of the origin realm and the abyss?" "The abyss," Han Yuan exclaimed softly. Everyone immediately looked at him. "The god of the origin realm is the only living being of the abyss we know of." Han Shuyan's expression also grew serious because of these words. "He's also the only one who can extend his influence beyond the abyss. That's because his soul is incredibly powerful, and he's also well versed in the mysteries of space. That's why he's able to send his soul out of the abyss through the mysteries of space. If you want to find the divine tree, you can find people like Diggs of the dark spirit race. The origin realm isn't the abyss. It's probably just his soul. To this day, no one knows if the god of the origin realm is just a pure soul like the heavenly devils. No one knows if he has a physical body. If he does, his body shouldn't be able to break through the abyss gate and leave the abyss for now. But he was able to infect the divine tree and Diggs of the void when he was still in the abyss. The void spirit, whose soul had separated from its body, and the Ruah Sun divine tree, both passed through the chaos hole and stood above the abyss gate before they came into contact with him. Those two didn't have Bertun's willpower, so they were quickly infected and hid in the abyss gate. The god of the origin realm seemed to have gained a deeper understanding of our world through the two of them. That's why he decided to charge through the abyss gate and come here in pure soul form. The great demon god Reed had brought Han Yuan this information. He was also shocked when he heard it. He knew nothing about the abyss. The Howran was the supreme human race, and it had only been tens of thousands of years since it started. They only set their eyes on the opponents of the major intelligent creatures in this galaxy and focused on conquering more territories and creating more deity thrones. No one knew how long the great demon god Bertuns had lived. The great demon god, who had an unlimited lifespan, had been invincible since the Titanspinosaurus. He had dominated the universe for a long time. To this day, there was no so-called peak powerhouse who could prove that they could defeat him. He had lived as an invincible being for so long and explored so many mysterious forbidden lands. Therefore, he was the only one who could face the abyss directly and go to the abyss gate often to observe what was going on below. Bertuns had sent the Sky Demon Race's High Priest Reed with some information. I'll share it with everyone. When Han Yuan spoke again, his gaze landed on Yu Yuan's Yin spirit. His expression was slightly complicated. His words were also slightly hesitant. According to Bertuns, tens of thousands of years ago, the god of the origin world had just passed through the abyss gate when he and the moon god king severely injured him. The human leader before me had an extremely powerful soul that could stand shoulder to shoulder with the great demon god. He also had the dragon-slaying platform. The dragon-slaying platform had the body of the spacetime dragon and could restrict the god of the origin world in terms of space. Therefore, the god of the origin world almost died the first time he passed through the abyss. But in the end, he still managed to escape. He hid himself in an unknown black hole in the abyss for many years. After that, he sent the dragon-slaying platform back to Howran. The great demon god Bertuns searched for the god of the origin world on his own for a while, but he couldn't find him. Gradually, he stopped keeping an eye on him. Many years later, the Shunhun sect was destroyed and the moon god king fell. The god of the origin world finally recovered some of his strength and began to secretly plant abyss gates everywhere. He became even more vigilant and careful. As soon as Bertuns noticed him, he would hide himself, or he would retreat back into the abyss. Tens of thousands of years have passed since then. He should have more or less recovered from the abyss gates he planted. The destruction of the abundant spirit realm was the best proof of that. He gradually grew bolder and more impudent. According to the great demon god Bertuns, he wants us to deal with the abyss gates in Howran as soon as possible. He says that the god of the origin world hasn't dared to show himself yet because he knows he's not strong enough. But if the god of the origin world devours Howran, even he doesn't know how strong the god of the origin world will become. He probably won't be able to suppress the god of the origin world. Han Yuan stopped there. Everyone in Howran, including Yu Yuan, was stunned by Han Yuan's words. Only Yu Yu's gaze landed on Yu Yuan. He didn't think that his close friend had once worked together with the great demon god Bertuns. If Bertuns hadn't said anything, no one in Howran would have known about this. Everyone suddenly realized that if it wasn't for the grand demon god Bertans and the person in charge of the dragon-slaying platform that had dealt a heavy blow to the god of origin world when he'd just broken out of the abyss tens of thousands of years ago and almost caused him to perish on the spot, then perhaps the situation in the entire universe wouldn't be like it was now. At the same time, Yu Yuan suddenly figured out why the great demon god Bertans had asked Reed to summon him to meet him in outer space after the meeting. Since Bertans already knew who he was, it was only natural that he would think of Qin Lai after the god of the origin world had grown so strong. The god of the origin world was terrifying because he was proficient in both the power of the soul and space. Bertans probably thought that Qin Lai's soul was strong enough to ignore the god of the origin world's bewitchment and control. Not only was his combat strength amazing, but he also had the dragon beheading platform to restrict the god of the origin world's spatial power. Qin Lai could work with him to severely injure or kill the god of the origin world again. Perhaps this was one of the reasons why Bertans agreed to participate in the plan to build a new Havoc. Because Qin Lai was still alive, and because Qin Lai could help him, Bertans paid attention to every move of the new Shenhun sect. Yu Yuan once came into contact with the god of the origin world in the full spirit realm. He even led him through the abyss chaos hole and stood above the abyss gate. Zuan coughed softly, causing everyone's attention to fall on Yu Yuan's own soul. Their gazes were filled with shock and confusion. Yu Yuan said that there are unbelievably large beings in the abyss, and there should be more than one of them. Maybe there are more beings on the same level as the god of the origin world, but they can't cross the abyss because they don't understand the secrets of space. As soon as this was said, everyone turned pale with fright. Chapter 1543. If a large number of abyssal beings like the gods of the origin world were to break through the abyss door, what would the consequences be? Everyone present was the pinnacle of the vast sea of stars. Even if they were placed in the boundless galaxy, they would be ranked among the top. But even so, everyone's mood suddenly became heavy when they thought of the possibility of this happening. The arrival of the god of the origin world was enough to give the great demon god Bertans a headache. Everyone knew who Bertans was and what he meant. If so many beings like him entered the abyss gate, it would definitely be a world-ending calamity. Even Bertans might not be able to stop it. Tell us. The old ape who was smoking turned his head and looked at Yu Yuan with narrowed eyes. Just like him, the others also turned their gazes to Yu Yuan. Everyone was very curious. How did Yu Yuan reach the abyss gate? How was he able to escape from the hands of the god of origin world? What did he see in the abyss? My experience is like this. Facing everyone's expectant gazes, Yu Yuan repeated his experience in a neither haughty nor humble manner. As he spoke, he seemed to have returned to the past and replayed his hasty meeting with the god of the origin world. He learned from Han Yuan that he and the great demon god Bertans had seriously injured the god of the origin world once. Now that he replayed that experience, he had a different understanding. The god of the origin world's consciousness had possessed Diggs and wanted to corrupt him. He wanted to turn him into a spirit of the void and a servant like the fallen god tree. At the crucial moment, the enormous soul in his main soul appeared and detonated the power of the dragon-slaying platform. At that moment, the god of the origin world must have learned of his identity and origins. As the dragon-slaying platform shone brightly, the god of the origin world might have been even more terrified than he was. He might have thought that Qin Lai had allied with the great demon god Bertans in his first life and planned to use the full spirit world to kill him. The god of the origin world knew who he was, so he hurriedly ended the unequal battle in fear. He had once suffered a great loss, and because of that, he had been silent for tens of thousands of years. He did not want that to happen again. Therefore, after recognizing who he was, he should have considered for a moment before deciding to end the battle quickly. Furthermore, the god of the origin realm, who didn't know what was going on, should have ordered the void spirits to retreat as well. He was worried that the great demonic god Bertans might already be on his way. He was afraid that the same thing would happen again and they would all be caught in one fell swoop. That was why he could easily escape and return to the real world through the gate of the abyss, which had already been reduced to nothingness. It was only today that Yu Yuan finally sorted out his thoughts. Beneath the abyss door is endless darkness. Ha ha ha. Devil Master Tan Xiaotian's deep and coarse laughter came from the darkness that was wrapped around him. This overlord of the demonic path, who had been silent all this time, suddenly burst out with fighting spirit. If it's really endless darkness, maybe I'm more qualified than the great demon god Bertans to explore the abyss. As soon as he said this, everyone thought about it carefully, and no one questioned him. Even Han Shuyuan had a thoughtful expression on his face. He had never been to the gate of the abyss, so he didn't know what kind of power existed in the abyss. Hearing Yu Yuan, the person involved, say that the abyss also seemed to be filled with endless darkness, based on his trust in Tan Xiaotian, he felt that the demon lord's words were not without reason. In terms of combat strength, the current Tan Xiaotian still couldn't beat the great demon god Bertans. But if the abyss was really filled with endless darkness, Tan Xiaotian might actually have a chance to enter the abyss after he comprehended all the laws related to darkness in the universe. Of course, no one could say for sure if he could survive after entering the abyss. Yu Yuan said that he can sense an unbelievably large being inside the abyss that is continuously ramming against the gate of the abyss. It obviously wants to charge out. The desolate god took a deep puff of smoke and said, "Maybe it really is an abyss being on par with the god of the origin realm." But he looked up and looked at Han Shuyuan in the Xianwang Dao flag. It's because the god of the origin realm has comprehended the power of space that he has an advantage in this area. For example, in our world, the void spirits, Luo Ren, and the space dragon have an easier time exploring the abyss. However, the void spirit, Luo Wei, and even the space-time dragon aren't the most powerful beings here. The great demon god Bertans. Maybe the god of the origin realm isn't the strongest among the abyss beings. Once the gate of the abyss is destroyed, no one can predict what will happen. We don't know what we'll face either. I even think that the great demon god Bertans allowed Howren to rise because he felt threatened by the abyss beings and happily watched the Howren world become the center of the universe. Hao Ho's relentless exploration and invasion of the Starry River and his desire for more godhood thrones have forced the intelligent beings in the Starry River to do their best to grow stronger. If you're not strong enough, you don't have the right to survive in the outer realms. It's only right that you be destroyed. Just like the desolate god dragged out his voice and looked at Tan Xiaotian, Qin Luo Tian Hu and Lin Doc, who represented the tranquil continent, and said, just like how the Tranquil Continent and the Tianyuan Continent are constantly competing with each other inside the Howren. Because of this, more experts have been born to fight against the other races in the outer realms. That makes sense. Han Shuyuan nodded approvingly. The others couldn't help but look at the old ape with admiration. They hadn't thought that the ancient ape god would be able to read the great demon god Bertan's mind. He knew that the great demon god Bertans had always been on guard against the abyss, so he was happy to see the Howren rise. Perhaps he might even secretly add fuel to the fire at a specific time. He made the fire burn brighter, and allowed the Howren's ambition to accelerate the rapid transformation of the races. He was also happy to see more experts like Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian appear in the world. If that was the case, then the worst day had truly arrived. The abyss gate had completely shattered. Numerous abyssal creatures poured in. Because of the vast number of powerful experts present, it wasn't like they didn't have the strength to fight back. I suddenly feel. Zhu An's body trembled slightly. He looked at the deep valley behind the Xianhuang Daoist flag with a strange gaze. Perhaps the great demon god Bertans felt the same when he stood at the gate of the abyss as I did all these years. Of course, his level is higher, and his vision is more far-reaching than mine. I'm worried about the god of the origin realm. I'm worried that the gate of the origin realm will become a chaos hole. I'm worried that the Howren will be swallowed, and I'm worried that the god of the origin realm will destroy everything we have. He's not worried about the god of the origin realm. He's worried about all the abyss creatures. He's worried that the abyss creatures will rush out and destroy our entire galaxy, wipe out all intelligent beings, and turn our entire star system into nothingness. After listening to Zuin, everyone thought deeply and felt a sense of respect for the old patriarch of the sky demon race. As the strongest expert in the universe, the great demon god Bertan's vision shouldn't be limited to the internal world. He should have taken on the responsibility of preventing the abyss creatures from escaping. For that, he must have done a lot of things in secret and protected this galaxy for countless years. In fact, he might have even interfered with the prosperity of the Howren human race. We need to get rid of this tumor as soon as possible, Han Quan said. If the gate of the origin realm behind me isn't removed for a long time, that person might turn the gate of the origin realm into an abyss chaos hole as his power continues to grow. Also, I believe that he's already set his sights on Howren because the mouth of the frigid abyss that the Goblin Temple is in charge of was destroyed by his believers. We need at least 5 mouths of the frigid abyss to absorb the power of frost at the same time in order to neutralize the flames at the core of the earth. The god of the origin realm should be aware of this, which is why he's continuing to strengthen the gate of the origin realm while destroying the mouth of the frigid abyss. What he wants is to take everything that exists in Howren and devour all of Howren. Now let me give you my first suggestion. Han Shuyuan exclaimed softly. Everyone sat up straight, temporarily suppressing the many distracting thoughts in their mind. All of them wanted to know exactly what this leader of the human race had to say about the gate of origin that was like a malignant tumor. Based on the information I've received, a spatial expert who has successfully ascended to the Ascendant Realm is required to destroy the gate of the origin realm that's built on Howren's laws. This person's willpower must also be strong enough. Otherwise, they may be corrupted by the god of the origin realm and become his believer. Therefore, the first thing we need to do is to have such a person appear in Haokong as soon as possible. As for the divine seat, Palace Lord Tan may have another one in outer space. However, he's still some time away from becoming a complete divine seat. Let me state my position first. Regardless of whether a new divine seat is created, once such a person appears and is qualified to ascend to the Ascendant Realm, in Xuantianzong, Ji Tianyu will vacate her divine seat and make way for him to ascend to the Ascendant Realm. Han Shuyuan's tone was indifferent. Yu Yuan was shocked. Like the other experts who were shocked, he fixed his eyes on Han Kuiyuan. The great Tao was merciless. This Xuantianzong sect master was cold-blooded and daring enough to directly sacrifice the supreme of his sect in order to solve the problem as soon as possible, as expected of the current leader of the human race. Once he decided on a direction, he carried it out so decisively. Little G hasn't ascended to the Ascendant Realm for long and hasn't reached the end of her lifespan. Even if she shatters her divine seat, she can still live in this world. Compared to Gu Xinkue, she's much luckier. Han Yuanyuan spoke of her in a rather casual manner, as if the replacement of a supreme deity seat was no big deal. Of course, we'll have to make up for this sacrifice in the future. We'll talk about this in the future. Currently, in Howren, only Zhou Yu of the Tongtian Trading Company has a chance of ascending to the Ascendant Realm in a short period of time. Yan Qiling doesn't have a body of flesh and blood, so he can be excluded. If you have any other candidates, no matter which camp they belong to, good or evil, or how many sins they have committed in the past, you can recommend them. As long as they're from Howren and haven't been bewitched by the god of the origin realm like Pei Yuling, they're qualified to compete. He seemed to be asking for everyone's opinion. However, after a few seconds, he spoke again. I have a candidate in mind, and I think he's the most suitable. Everyone looked at him silently. Han Shuyuan said softly, the former Rainbow Divine Dragon, the current sect master of the Medicine God sect, Zhong Chichen. Chapter 1544. Space and Time Dragon, Zhong Chichen. He was proficient in the power of time and space. He was the most arrogant rainbow dragon in ancient times, and the most difficult dragon god to kill. Apart from their old grudges, who else could be more suitable than him? According to Han Shuyuan, the dragon-slaying platform had been the reason why Bertuns and the fiend god had been able to heavily injure the god of origin, who had just broken out of the deep cave. It was exactly because of the spacetime dragon's body that the spacetime seal had been formed on dragon-slaying platform, and it was the reason why the god of origin world had suffered such a huge loss. He had almost died the moment he broke out of the deep cave. None of the Howren experts doubted the space and time dragon's abilities after hearing that Han Shuyuan's candidate was the space and time dragon. Instead, they began to worry about something else. The dragons in ancient times had been overthrown by human beings and demons. They were bound to hate all the forces in Howren. Not just the 5 supreme experts who controlled Howren, even the Shunhun sect, the Ghost Witch sect and the Earth Demon sect had contributed. After Zhong Chichen became a god, it would be difficult for him to be killed again since he had died once as a divine dragon. Everybody knew how strong the dragons had been. Wouldn't it be like nurturing a tiger if Zhong Chichen regained his peak strength? I know what you're worried about. It was Han Guiyuan who spoke first. He smiled confidently and continued, today is different from the past. After tens of thousands of years, most of the ascendants of your generation are stronger than those of the past. Also, there are enough of us. Even if he regains his peak strength, he won't be able to do anything to you. It'll be difficult for us to kill him at most. All of you are much stronger than the gods of the primordial era. We shouldn't worry too much about the existence of a mere dragon god. He tried to convince everybody with reason. My good senior brother, Zhong Chichen, Yu Yuan had a look of surprise on her face. She didn't expect the situation to change so drastically. After senior martial brother awakened, he was afraid that he would be targeted by Han Shuyuan and Demonic Phoenix, so he hurriedly left Howren and escaped to the outer region of the galaxy, seeking freedom. Who would have thought that Han Shuyuan would think of him first because of the threat posed by the Gate of the Origin Realm, and because Howren was in urgent need of an Ascendant State expert proficient in the power of space. Once Ji Tianyu's deity throne shattered, her Tao heart would shatter as well. Even if she lived on in this world, it would be difficult for her to forge another deity throne. According to all the information available, this second supreme of Xuantianzong didn't seem to have outstanding battle prowess, and Han Guiyuan was trying his best to nurture Chao Jiaza. Yu Yuan had reason to believe that Ji Tianyu's deity position would eventually shatter, and she might also die of depression. Chao Jiaza, who was stronger and had more potential, was bound to replace her in the future, and become a peak force of the human race like Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian. Although Han Shuyuan was the master of Xuantianzong, his vision wasn't limited to Xuantianzong at all. Once an extraordinary person with extraordinary potential appeared in the human race, he would train them openly and secretly, regardless of which sect they were from, even if they were from the Devil's Palace or the Red Devil School. Lin Doc, Tan Xiaotian, Yuan Hao, Qin Luo, many human experts had been escorted by Han Kuang from afar. He had taken care of them in private, helping them to reach the apotheosized realm. Han Shuyuan, who claimed to be the leader of the human race, had done everything for the prosperity of the entire human race. He wasn't limited to just one sect. In that regard, he was completely selfless. There was nothing wrong with his moral character. He had indeed contributed a lot to the human race's current status. It was no wonder that Lin Doc, Tan Xiaotian, Yuan Hao, and the others all trusted him when it came to major issues, even if they were dissatisfied with him. Yuan Hao didn't come because he'd arranged for Qin Luo to occupy that path after Li Tianxin's death, endangering the primal Yang sect's interests. However, Yuan Hao also knew that Qin Luo had seized the god's path and entered the great sun beyond heaven. She could indeed better protect Haosong. The Haoran human race's strength had increased because of this, and the losses caused by Li Tianxin's death had been minimized. Therefore, even if he was a bit unhappy, Yuan Hao still arranged for Mo Baichuan to attend. This was because he knew that Han Shuyuan's arrangements weren't for himself or the Xuantianzong, but for the entire human race. When Haoran faced a threat this time, he was the one who stood out and asked Ji Tianyu to shatter her deity position to make room for Zhong Qichen. I don't like that seven-colored dragon very much. However, there's something I must say. Ghostly god Yu Yu suddenly spoke. Yu Yuan and Zhu An both turned to look at him in surprise. They didn't know why he'd interrupted. Please speak. Even Han Shuyuan, who was in the Xiantian Dao flag, treated him with great respect. The void spirit called Luo Wei will die in the tainted underground world. That seven-colored dragon contributed a lot. His space-time seal is extraordinary. Without the space-time seal to restrict Luo Wei, I and Yu Yuan would never let Luo Wei die in Haoran. When he mentioned Yu Yuan, everyone glanced at him, but they didn't seem to take him seriously. Everyone knew that Yu Yuan had stabbed Luo Wei's heart with the dragon beheading platform, which was why Luo Wei's body was so severely injured. They naturally thought that it was because the dragon beheading platform was too terrifying. They didn't think that Yu Yuan was that powerful. The seven-colored dragon, Zhong Qichen, is only in the Freedom Realm. Once he succeeds in ascending to godhood, I believe that he'll be a great threat to the god of the Origin Realm with his space-time seal. I believe that it was because of his space-time seal that the great demon god Bertuns was able to fight against the god of the Origin Realm. So, if he can ascend to godhood, it won't just be to deal with the gate of the Origin Realm in Haoran. He can also threaten the god of the Origin Realm. Yu Yu expressed his thoughts. Han Shuyuan nodded slightly. My thoughts coincide. Han Shuyuan had already thought about giving Zhong Qichen a deity position and allowing him to ascend to godhood before he came to the meeting. He had only casually mentioned Zhou Yu from the Tongtian Trading Company. In his heart, he didn't think that Zhou Yu had the strength to fight against the god of the Origin Realm. He was worried that Zhou Yu would become a believer of the god of the Origin Realm like the Void Spirit and Diggs if he succeeded in becoming a god. In that case, let's vote. Does anyone have any opinions on giving Zhong Qichen a deity position? Han Shuyuan looked at Mo Baichuan first. Mo Baichuan said woodenly, agreed. He then looked at Qin Luo, then at the darkness representing Tan Xiaotian, Zuan, Yu Yu, Yu Yuan, and the desolate god. Agreed. The people he saw nodded without much hesitation. He only left out Lin Doc. He seemed to know that it was useless to ask, and Lin Doc would find him annoying, so he simply bypassed him. In the end, he looked at Tianhu, who represented the Goblin Temple, and his expression became serious. What does that person mean? That person was naturally the supreme of the Goblin Temple, demonic phoenix. Most of the humans believed him. After he explained so much, Zuan, the desolate god, Yu Yuan, and Yu Yu also agreed. But he still didn't know what to do with demonic phoenix. He still couldn't figure out what demonic phoenix was thinking. After so many years, in the entire Haoran Great World, the only thing he was afraid of and couldn't understand was demonic phoenix. Since Tianhu was here, he knew that with Tianhu's power, he could definitely communicate with demonic phoenix. Everyone was discussing something here, and he could also listen to her thoughts. When Han Shuyuan looked at the white Tianhu, all the powerhouses here also stared at this majestic tiger. It was as if they all knew that this fierce tiger was communicating with her at this moment. After a while, Tianhu nodded gently. Han Shuyuan's frowning brows finally relaxed. It seemed that the most difficult part was easily passed because of the Supreme of the Goblin Temple nodding. The thing he was most uncertain about was Demonic Phoenix's attitude. He knew that Demonic Phoenix hated the dragon race. The same went for the dragon race. Strictly speaking, the dragon race and the ancient demon race belonged to the Howren demon race. The dragon race was originally the leader and ruled all the ancient demon races. Demonic Phoenix was the only one who could talk to the dragon race, and was the only one who was respected. However, Demonic Phoenix chose to join forces with the Shunhun sect, the Ghost Witch sect, the Earth demon race, and many other supreme beings of the human race later on to overthrow the dragon race's rule. Therefore, the dragon race's hatred for Demonic Phoenix was even greater than the Howren humans. Demonic Phoenix also firmly suppressed the dragon race, making it impossible for the dragon race to make a comeback. Until Yu Yuan returned from outer space with the dragon beheading platform and the baby Titanspinosaurus, he directly broke Howren's seal on the dragon race. Because of this, the dragon race had the possibility of becoming a god again. Also, because of the serious threat of the Gate of Origin, Howren urgently needed the Rainbow Divine Dragon to appear again. Han Shuyuan was most worried about Demonic Phoenix. He was afraid that if she didn't agree, it would suddenly become more difficult to carry out the plan. That's good. Then there are no more obstacles. I will let everyone announce this to outer space, and let Zhong Qichen know our attitude and sincerity. Then, we just need to wait for him. Han Shuyuan suddenly stopped in the middle of his speech, as if he smelled something unusual. His figure in the Xian Wang Dao flag also stiffened because of this. He narrowed his eyes and silently sensed for a while. Suddenly, he said, "All right, since you have something to say, then you say it." In the Xian Wang Dao flag, an entrance to the cold abyss suddenly appeared, and then Zhong Qichen's light laughter came from it. "What, now you're begging me to come back, begging me to become a god? Kid Han, old witch, shouldn't you ask me if I'll agree to it?" Ha ha ha! Zhong Qichen's laughter suddenly became incomparably arrogant. "I won't become a god. I'll drift in outer space. What can you do to me? I don't care about Howren's life at all. Perhaps, I want to see Howren turn into nothingness, and see your sect and your disciples die in an instant." Hearing this, the peak powerhouses at the entrance of the deep valley gradually frowned. They could all imagine that Zhong Qichen must be at the entrance of a cold abyss in another domain of extreme cold. The entrance to the cold abyss was an underground cave that connected to the Nine Hells cold abyss. One of Han Shuyuan's souls was responsible for guarding it. As the spacetime dragon, the entrances to the cold abyss in outer space were originally built by him and the Frost Dragon. He had left behind his spacetime power inside. He was at the entrance to the cold abyss in the domain of extreme cold, and his voice was transmitted over for everyone to hear. One moment he called Kid Han, the next he called Old Witch. When he spoke of Old Witch, that kind of monstrous undisguised hatred seemed to overflow from the entrance to the cold abyss in the Xian Wang Dao flag. His boundless hatred for the demonic phoenix was so deep and intense that anyone could feel it. Chapter 1545. Yu Yuan's meaningful gaze fell on the Xian Wang Dao flag as his mind wandered. At the same time, he also used his Yin soul to connect to his true body on an inconspicuous island in the Stardust Sea. His true body summoned the dragon-slaying platform and held it with one hand. His Yang soul flew out of his body and instantly entered the small world inside the dragon-slaying platform. He carefully examined the burial ground of the spacetime dragon, but didn't find anything out of the ordinary. He was the ruler of the dragon-slaying platform and the master of the 3 small worlds inside. If Zhong Qichen had used the broken dragon corpse to pry into his mind, he would have found some clues. But after sensing for a while, he found that this was not the case. Zhong Qichen did not participate in the meeting through his own soul. He knew the topic of the meeting and the result of the discussion. If it was not him, who could it be? How did senior brother Zhong Qichen find out that the supreme experts of vast dark sect had gathered in the deep valley of the Heaven Ascension mountain range to discuss the matter of promoting a supreme being who was proficient in the power of space? Who the hell told him that? Where did he get the news? In the deep valley, Yu Yuan's own soul looked at Zhu and Yu, desolate god, the darkness representing Tan Xiaotian, Mo Baichuan, Qin Luo. He looked at them one by one. He did not think that anyone present would have informed senior brother Zhong Qichen. He felt that many of the experts who participated in the meeting did not know that the meeting held by Han Shuyuan was about to elect a supreme expert of the power of space. He also did not expect that the candidate in Han Shuyuan's mind would be the spacetime dragon. It was impossible to inform Zhong Qichen in advance. However, senior martial brother Zhong Qichen just had to use the connection between the Cold Abyss entrance and the 9 underworlds Cold Abyss to find the cave that Han Kuiyuan was guarding. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Who could find him in the outer realms? Who could guess Han Shuyuan's thoughts? Who was more worried that Howren's gate of origin would turn into an abyss chaotic hole? Who could do all of this? In the Stardust Sea, Yu Yuan's young soul in the dragon-slaying platform appeared in his mind. The great demon god Bertans. Only him. It was Beltans who had arranged for Reed to secretly inform the leader of the human race, Han Qingyuan, about the abyss and the god of the origin realm. He had also urged Han Qingyuan to resolve the matter as soon as possible. How to solve it? In the Howren Major world, who could resist the bewitchment of the god of origin world and quickly ascend to godhood, except for the dragon of space and time in ancient times? Han Shuyuan already had a candidate in mind before the meeting had even been held. He didn't have much of a choice. The great demon god Bertans must have known who Han Yuan was. Perhaps the great demon god Bertans had thought of Zhong Qichen the moment the news that he had awakened in the corrupted world at the core of the earth and was still alive was exposed. And before Han Kuang-yuan, Reed had selflessly told Han Yuan about the abyss and the god of the origin realm. He wanted to remind Han Yuan that he didn't have much time or choice. This seat must be given to senior brother Zhong Qichen. This should be the idea of the great demon god Bertans. Han Yuan was just fulfilling his idea. He must have either made a move himself or arranged for his emissaries to find his senior martial brother in the Starry River outside the Starry River. He must have told senior brother what was about to happen, so he had arranged for senior brother to wait at the entrance of the frigid abyss. Once Howren came out with a result, he would signal senior brother to send a message to the entrance. Han Yuan's soul was guarding the cave at the bottom of the frigid abyss. When he saw that senior brother was on the other side, he could only let him come out. But senior brother was clamoring to refuse, saying that he didn't care about Howren's life at all. Thinking of this, Yu Yuan already knew what was going on. The connection between his own soul and his main body was no longer so tight. He looked at the Xian Wang Dao flag with a strange expression. If you really didn't care, why would you send a voiceover? Yu Yuan snorted softly. Are you done cursing? The old fox Han Yuan sighed in the Xian Wang Dao flag. He seemed to have a headache. Great. I haven't been this happy in a long time. Zhong Qichen's arrogant laughter came from the entrance of the frigid abyss. Okay, tell me your conditions. What do you want us to do for you to agree to become a god? Agree to help Howren get rid of this cancer that's like a fishbone in your throat? Han Yuan asked helplessly. He was obviously familiar with the space-time dragon of ancient times. He knew that this guy was not a kind person. He also knew that since Zhong Chichen's voice had come, it meant that he attached great importance to this matter. He would definitely take the opportunity to get as many benefits as possible. Since you've seen through me, then I won't hide it anymore. Zhong Chichen chuckled, not embarrassed at all. It was as if the insult he had taken the opportunity to do earlier was not done by him at all. I don't want much. Back then, our dragon clan had 5 dragon gods. Did the dragon clan not contribute to Howren's current achievements? Didn't the existence of the frigid abyss and the entrances of the frigid abyss were created by our dragon clan? Yes, when our dragon clan ruled Howren, we were indeed a little overbearing. But if it weren't for our dragon clan and our 5 dragon gods in Howren, how could your human clan rise? How could your human clan be as powerful as the demon clan now? Zhong Chichen's tone was cold. Without us, all living beings in Howren would have been wiped out by other intelligent races long ago. Ever since our dragon clan began to move about in the outer realms of the galaxy, all the powerful races had guessed the wonders of Howren. In their eyes, Howren was a big fat piece of meat. Everyone wanted to take a bite out of it. It would be best if they could take it all. In that era, without our dragon clan, would you have been able to stop them? He was actually promoting the dragon clan's contributions to Howren. His words were righteous and sonorous. It was as if without the dragon clan's protection, Howren had already been invaded by intelligent beings from outer realms in ancient times. The human clan and the demon clan of today were either directly destroyed or became the other party's sacrificial food. Don't give me that crap. If it weren't for your dragon clan rushing out and robbing people everywhere, Howren would still be unknown. Han Yuan's face darkened. He said impatiently, especially you. The one who brought Howren the most notoriety is you, the 7-colored dragon. Zhong Chichen suddenly fell silent. Then, after a while, he spoke again. I want 2 deity thrones. I want to see Long Jie become a dragon god first. After he becomes a god, I will return to Howren to become a god and deal with the gate to the origin realm in the heaven overlooking mountain range, and the second gate to the origin realm in the passage I opened back then. 2 deities? Don't you dare ask for too much. Han Yuan was angry. 2 deities? Everyone in the deep valley looked at the black-yellow Taoist flag with a complicated look in their eyes. Ji Tianyu could vacate 1 deity throne, but the other deity throne that Tan Xiaotian had obtained in outer realms still needed time to brew. It would be impossible for it to become a deity throne that could fuse with the other deity throne. However, as the deity of the origin realm grew, the gate to the origin realm in the deep valley was continuously accumulating power. They in Howren didn't have enough time to wait for the other deity throne to be created. In short, if Long Jie doesn't break through to become a dragon god, I won't condense a deity throne. Zhong Chichen's calm voice came from the mouth of the frigid abyss. Yu Yuan believed that if it weren't for the fact that Howren needed him right now, Lin Dok, Tan Xiaotian, and man who would have rushed to outer realms and chased him all over the world. There's not enough time. We don't have that much time to condense a new deity throne. Han Yuan said in a low voice. That's your problem. Zhong Chichen wouldn't relent. There was no room for negotiation. He knew that he only had this one chance. I don't care what you do. I must see Long Jie become a god first. If Long Jie doesn't become a god, I won't return to Howren. As for the second deity throne, you can find a way to solve it yourselves if there's enough time. I'm tired. I'm going to leave through the mouth of the frigid abyss. Before I leave, I'll say one more thing. His voice stopped. Naturally, everyone looked at the Xian Wang Dao flag and the mouth of the frigid abyss. They were waiting for him to say one last thing. However, he seemed to be deliberately teasing everyone. He didn't say anything for a long time, making everyone look at the mouth of the frigid abyss at the same time. He seemed to be enjoying the moment. If you have something to say, say it. The desolate god couldn't help but curse. "Oh, you little monkey. You have quite a temper, don't you? When I was running rampant in Howren and commanding the universe, you were probably still squatting on a tree and not even knowing how to speak human language." Zhong Chichen's mocking voice leisurely sounded. "How long have you been jumping around? You dare to show off in front of your grandfather? If you have something to say, say it." Yu Yuan also found him annoying and cursed in the same way. Yu Yu's expression was strange. The White Heaven Tiger, Qin Luo, Mo Baichuan, and the others, and even Tan Xiaotian, who was hiding in the darkness, couldn't help but look at Yu Yuan in surprise. They didn't expect him to speak. This kid was quite bold. As the representative of the Shenhun sect and the main force in eradicating the dragon race, he dared to speak to the seven-colored dragon like that. They didn't know what the spacetime dragon was going to do. Would he take the opportunity to threaten Han Guiyuan and punish Yu Yuan directly? If he spoke with Han Guiyuan's personality, he might really do it for the sake of the big picture. "Don't get involved," Zuan scolded softly. It was Yu Yuan's fault for speaking nonsense. However, after Yu Yuan spoke, Zhong Chichen didn't immediately counterattack. "It was very strange. After all, we're brothers from the same sect. I can ignore the old witch and Han Guiyuan. But you. Forget it, I won't tease them anymore." Zhong Chichen paused again and finally said, "The human race has actually sacrificed a lot. My suggestion is that since the Qilin is past his prime and has no vitality left, he might as well die early." The mouth of the frigid abyss in the Xian Huang Dao flag disappeared. He wanted the Qilin to die. He wanted Ji Tianyu of the human race and the Qilin of the demon race to give up a deity position. He obviously hated the demon race more. Chapter 1546. In the Star-Gold Sea. Yu Yuan's true form, which was in charge of the dragon-slaying platform, and his yang spirit were both on a nameless island. Suddenly, he sensed something and looked in the direction of the Qian continent. A ghostly blue figure floated over in a slightly sneaky manner. Tian Tsang, who was in his pure spirit form and didn't carry the blue devil's tear, appeared so abruptly. Yu Yuan had rarely seen Tian Tsang like this. The Tian Tsang he had seen before had a materialized devil body that he had refined, and the blue devil's tear had always been in his possession. "I have a message for you. I'll leave as soon as I'm done." After returning to the forbidden land of the fallen moons after sending High Priest Reed to the devil abyss of calamity, he looked at the dragon-slaying platform in Yu Yuan's hand and said, "Take my soul to the dragon-slaying platform with your yang spirit." Yu Yuan's heart trembled slightly. "It's that serious?" Tian Tsang had abandoned his refined devil body and the blood spirit altar of the blue devils, and requested to speak inside the dragon-slaying platform at this moment. It must be very important. Clearly, he didn't want anyone to know what he was going to say. "Yes," Tian Tsang said solemnly. "No one can hear it." "All right." Yu Yuan didn't hesitate. The yang spirit he had left in the dragon-slaying platform instantly flew out, wrapped around Tian Tsang's soul with his own flesh aura, and pulled him inside. The mouth of the frigid abyss was where the frost dragon was buried, and there was a baby boy waiting to be fed. After Tian Tsang's soul arrived, he took a look at the strange baby boy, and a strange expression appeared on his face. However, he didn't ask any questions. Instead, he said, "Someone has invited you to the great lake of desolate God and asked you to enter the lair of annihilation. They've invited you to go to outer space and help them kill a powerful expert." Yu Yuan was taken aback. "Don't ask me who invited me, and don't ask me who I'm going to kill. You just need to go to the great lake of desolate God and stand in the lair of annihilation." Before he could ask, Tian Tsang hurried to explain, "Your Yin spirit is at the Heaven Mountain range. Your Yang spirit and Yin spirit are connected. Once you find out who invited you and who you're going to kill, your Yin spirit will know immediately." In order to avoid unnecessary trouble, before your true body leaves vast expanse, it's best that you know nothing. Once your true body and yang spirit, your een spirit's body's lair, your connection with them, your een spirit's will of desolate God will. At that time, you will immediately know the ins and outs of the matter once you leave Howang's yang spirit and body. Tian Tsung's expression was extremely grave. Nye Tian's lair's realm body spirit's lair. Of annihilation realm domain, Luan, spirits, heaven's spirits, Luan's S-lands, S of heaven S realms Lan S the annihilation lair was in the vast swamp, the death lair was in the dark wing star field, and the regeneration lair was in the dark elf race's holy land. Luan did this to connect Howren to the winged race and the dark spirit race. Luan had taken Luan's heaven-ness to save Brizette, who had been seriously injured and whose bloodline had dropped. Regardless of whether he went to Luan's lair of death or ended up in the dark spirit race's lair of regeneration, Yu Yuan believed Chen Qinghuang must know something. Since that was the case, there was no reason for him to hesitate. I wish you all the best. Tian Tsung was straightforward. Seeing that Nye Tian had agreed, he immediately motioned for him to leave. He had only come to pass on a message. He seemed to have other important matters to attend to. It seems that something big must be happening in the Starry River outside Howren, Yu Yuan said with mixed feelings. It's rare that all the top experts of Howren are participating in that meeting. Before Tian Tsung flew away from the lair, he chuckled and said, "This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. They must take advantage of it to do something. Also, since the Desolate God is guarding the Great Lake of the Desolate God, no one will be able to sense it. Other than the Desolate God, everyone else will think that you're still in the lake." Tian Tsung's soul shadow flew out of the lair of the falling moons without saying another word. Yu Yuan didn't hesitate either. Before Tian Tsung disappeared completely, he activated the lair of the Desolate God. In the great swamp, he locked onto the lair that was emitting a destructive aura and jumped down. As soon as he entered the lair of destruction, spatial power enveloped him and sent him to a mysterious place in the outside world. At the mouth of a deep valley in the heaven-reaching mountain range, the old ape, who was squatting on a rock and smoking a pipe, suddenly shot a glance at Yu Yuan's nether deity. Yu Yuan pretended that he hadn't seen it. At this moment, his true form and his yang deity had just left the lair of destruction in the lake with the lair of destruction. As the actual ruler of the great lake of the Desolate God, everything that happened there couldn't be hidden from the Desolate God. The old ape was also surprised. He didn't understand why Yu Yuan had left the Howren in such a hurry at such a special time. He didn't know where Yu Yuan was going at this time. However, there were even more humans and demons who were still in a state of intense mental shock. This was because of the last words that the dragon of space and time, Zhong Chichen, had left behind. Qilin might as well die early. Zhong Chichen had not only asked for 2 divine thrones, but he also had a candidate in mind. It was the demon god of the Goblin Temple, the Qilin. His hatred for the demons was obvious. He had specifically mentioned the Qilin and said that the human race had sacrificed enough. Clearly, he was trying to stir up conflict between the human race and the demon race in the Howren. However, after the mouth of the frigid abyss, which represented him, disappeared, the paramount experts of the human race couldn't help but look meaningfully at man who represented the Goblin Temple. On the human side, Li Tianxin had died, Zhu Zhenxing had been killed by Yu Yu, and Gu Xingkue had also died not long ago. Under Han Xiuwen's arrangement, Ji Tianyu of Xuantianzong had taken the initiative to give up her divine thrones. Just as Zhong Chichen had said, the human race had sacrificed a lot, but the Goblin Temple hadn't suffered any losses so far. The demon gods were all sitting peacefully in the Demon God Temple. Yu Zhu still had a part of the demon race's bloodline, and had successfully ascended to godhood. She had clearly received the support of the demon phoenix. Many of the peak experts present knew that the more powerful the blood of those with the demon race's bloodline, the more benefits the demon phoenix would receive. In other words, Yu Zhu's ascension to godhood had also strengthened the demon phoenix's power. The Goblin Temple and the ancient demon race represented by the demon phoenix not only didn't suffer any losses, but also benefited greatly when Howren was in danger. Now, Howren urgently needed 2 new divine thrones. Ji Tianyu would contribute one, and the Goblin Temple would contribute the other. It seemed reasonable and not excessive at all. Moreover, Zhong Qichen was telling the truth. The Qilin was indeed old enough. The Qilin wasn't a demon phoenix, and he wasn't the frigid snow bear in outer space. He wasn't a special case like Taisher. The Qilin was going to die in the end. Since he was going to die, and he wasn't far from death, then he might as well die. To be honest, other than being loyal, that old fellow doesn't have any redeeming qualities. The old ape, who was smoking a pipe, grinned strangely. As the demon god of the demon race, he was actually fanning the flames at this time. That person trusts the old Qilin completely and treats him well. However, he hasn't done much in recent years despite occupying this position. The desolate god's lips suddenly curled into a ferocious smile. He occupies this position, but he's afraid of death and doesn't dare to fight against the peak experts of the other races. Rather than that, it's better to give the divine thrones to Long Jie or that dragon of space and time. In my opinion, these 2 dragons have evolved into dragon gods, and we might have a headache in the future. However, those warriors of the other races in outer space might be even more troublesome than us. He, who had always been at odds with the Goblin Temple and that demon phoenix, actually expressed his opinion before the human race. He supported the death of the Qilin. Han Kuo, who was in the Xian Wang Dao flag, first looked at the desolate god with an approving gaze. He felt that the desolate god's words made sense and spoke his mind. The more he looked at this old ape who had taken over the Great Lake, the more he liked it. What you said makes a lot of sense. I won't comment on the Qilin's other matters. I just want to say that he's really old and doesn't have any vitality left. White Sky Tiger, who represented the Goblin Temple, saw that all the experts present were staring at him. He couldn't help but say, as soon as he opened his mouth, he suddenly stopped. He seemed to have received a message from the demon phoenix. Then, he, who wasn't good at this kind of argument, said with a stiff face, "That person said that she arranged for the Qilin to go to outer space and that he won't be back for a while." She also said, Sky Tiger hesitated and said, she also said that before the Qilin left, she clearly told him not to come back no matter who summoned him. That includes herself and the Goblin Temple's orders. Don't listen to anyone. As soon as he said this, everyone was in an uproar. No one expected the demon phoenix to do this. She sent the Qilin to outer space and specifically told him not to come back. Even when she summoned the Qilin was told to ignore her. What did this mean? She probably knew what was going on and knew that there might be some changes and accidents in the middle of the meeting. If you want the Qilin to die, I'll make sure he never comes back. I won't listen to anyone's orders. This was clearly cheating. On the Goblin Temple's side, Sky Tiger had contributed a lot to Howren. He was in the prime of his life. Not only could he fight and kill, but he also dared to fight and kill. He was a powerful force that Howren couldn't lack. No one wanted Sky Tiger to die. The Qilin wasn't here. As for her, no one would even think about it. It's not appropriate for her to make such an arrangement. Han Yuan, who was far away in the Xian Wang Dao flag, suppressed his anger. He was also unhappy. I'll take care of one of the divine seats. As for her, if she doesn't want Howren to be destroyed, she has to take care of the other one. Everyone's eyes were still on Sky Tiger, as if they wanted to see through him and see what the demon phoenix was thinking. Unfortunately, no one knew what the demon phoenix was thinking or what she would do. She said, when Sky Tiger spoke again, everyone could feel that this violent tiger's voice was trembling. Everyone was shocked and their faces became serious. From Sky Tiger's tone, they knew that what he was going to say would be earth-shattering. It could change Howren's situation. She said that the Qilin is past his prime. However, within the human race, there's also someone who has occupied the divine seat for many years and hasn't done much. The Qilin will die eventually. It's just a matter of time. However, the human race has unlimited lifespan, but they are greedy for life. They don't dare to fight with the alien races. Living on is not beneficial to Howren. It's better to die early. As soon as he finished speaking, an ear-piercing phoenix cry sounded from within the primal Yang sect. Everyone's expression changed. Even Lindok suddenly opened his eyes. Chapter 1547. The cry of a phoenix shook the entire world. Boom. Boom boom boom. Boom boom boom. Primal Yang Mountain, Dark Yang Mountain, Extreme Yang Mountain, Lesser Yang Mountain, Phoenix Sun Mountain, Eastern Yang Mountain, and Black Yang Mountain. The 7 towering fiery mountain peaks suddenly shook violently. Rings of dark red, crimson, dark red, and orange-red spirit power rippled from the middle of the 7 mountain peaks in an attempt to form a grand protective formation. Unfortunately, as the 7 mountain peaks shook, the light waves disappeared into nothingness. The primal Yang sect's grand protective formation didn't work at all. In fact, it hadn't even been fully formed. Then, a deep purple sea slowly swallowed up primal Yang Mountain, where Yuan Hao was cultivating. All of the primal Yang sect cultivators felt a great pressure on their hearts and minds as they stared at the purple sea filled with endless blood power. Even breathing became difficult. By the time they realized who the deep purple sea represented, the cultivators who were closer to primal Yang Mountain began to vomit painfully, as if they were about to collapse from the strong smell of blood. They wailed in their sects, calling Lindok's name and praying for him to come to their sect. Su Jingyao, his hair disheveled, hastily walked out of the cave abode where he had been cultivating. Despair and helplessness filled his face as he looked at primal Yang Mountain, which had been engulfed by purple blood power. How could this be? How could this be? He cried bitterly. The primal Yang sect cultivators who were crying like him were scattered across every mountain peak. Anyone who tried to get close to primal Yang Mountain and struggle with all their might was held down by the elders of their sects, not allowing them to move a single step. That was because they knew what that purple blood sea with boundless demonic energy represented, and what it meant. It represented a demonic phoenix and invincibility. In the forbidden land of Fallen Moon, after a violent shudder, godly King Tianqi suddenly shot into the sky from his magnificent palace. He even passed through the range of the sealing heaven soul transforming formation and stared at the Tianyuan continent with a grim expression. Next to him, the evil stone statue that had been carved out of Sword Prison was also floating in the air. Godly King Tianqi, who had been born in the Starry River and focused on tempering his body, sensed the boundless demonic energy that seemed to fill the entire Howren, and his expression gradually changed. This is her power? The kind-looking statue asked softly, "How do you feel?" I finally understand why even the Chaos Kuan was suppressed in the Starash Sea region. Tianqi sucked in a deep breath and said with some difficulty, "In terms of flesh and blood energy alone, I've never seen anyone stronger than her since I was born. Even the star behemoths we know can't compare to her. She was the one who hunted star behemoths all over the world after that supreme being sank into Howren." The sinkhole godly monarch felt stifled when he spoke of demonic phoenix. She was able to improve herself time and time again because of the death of the astral behemoths. Now, you should know that we have to take the long view, right? Tianqi nodded solemnly. Tongtian Trading Company. Jun Chen and Zhongli Do were shocked at first, and then they looked at Lu Lu, who had returned from the barren lost land. Feng Zhong and Zhou Yu were dumbstruck as well. She as the new sect master of the ancient desolate sect, Zhongli Do was very sensitive to flesh and blood auras. The more sensitive he was, the more he knew how terrifying the boundless demonic energy that had emerged from the primal Yang sect was. He had never sensed such rich flesh and blood energy from any living being, whether it was in Howren or outside of Howren. It's her. Lulu nodded in a bad mood. Suddenly, he felt that the other him, in the small glass bottle Yu Yuan had given him, might come in handy in the future. What happened at the heaven-reaching mountain range? Why did she kill Yuan Hao? Zhou Yu scratched his head anxiously, wishing he could tear open space and go to the Omphalos and the primal Yang sect. But he didn't dare. I'm afraid Howren is about to change, Feng Zhong said quietly. At the mouth of the Omphalos in the heaven-reaching mountain range. After a phoenix cry, everyone's expressions flickered as their sharp gazes landed on Man Hu's face. No one had expected that the demonic phoenix would suddenly go to the primal Yang sect while everyone was in the middle of the meeting. She didn't seem to want to discuss it with anyone. Instead, she directly attacked Yuan Hao. Her attitude was clear. Qilin wasn't coming back anyway. Since Han Yuan wanted to force her to hand over a divine seat, she would kill Yuan Hao to make up for it. Furthermore, she had already made her move. No one could guess what she was thinking. Before she made her move, no one thought she would be so unreasonable and domineering. Since the beginning of the meeting, Lin Doc, who had kept his eyes closed and didn't care about anything, instantly opened his eyes and stood up when the phoenix cry rang out. Lin Doc, who always carried a sword on his back, narrowed his eyes and looked towards the primal Yang sect. His eyes were cold and filled with fighting spirit. A pure sword intent that could pierce through the heavens shot out from the top of his head and instantly tore apart the white mist around the heaven-reaching mountain range. It turned into a pillar of silver light that caught everyone's attention. The pillar of light stopped in the sky above the heaven-reaching mountain range and locked onto the primal Yang sect. At this moment, all of Vast Blusia's experts, regardless of whether or not they could see the silvery white pillar of light in the Heaven Ascension mountain range, had a strange feeling. A sword was hanging in the sky above Howren, ready to stab down at any moment. It could stab anyone. No matter where the target of this sword was, no matter how it was hidden or concealed, this sword would be able to stab accurately. Lin Doc. Countless people were moved, and they were in a constant state of panic. Especially in the northern part of the tranquil continent where the Goblin Temple was. Almost all the rank 9 demon kings seemed to be facing death. However, they clearly knew that they were only affected. The sword's target wasn't them at all. Don't! Han Yuan's true body walked out of the Xian Wang Dao flag. With a serious expression, he pressed down on Lin Doc's shoulder and shouted, "Don't be rash." Lin Doc's expression was cold. He was obviously displeased. He tilted his head and waited for Han Yuan to explain. The atmosphere at the mouth of the deep valley was tense. Every expert in Howren didn't have the slightest trace of relaxation on their faces. They all knew that an earth-shattering battle would break out in the next second. That tyrannical heaven tiger was as calm as a mountain at this moment. His expression was very calm. It was as if he was prepared to welcome all the storms that would come his way. He represented the Goblin Temple, and was a member of the demon race. If the demon phoenix was besieged, he would resolutely fight to the end with all the humans present, regardless of the consequences. He would die without regret. Yu Yuan, who was fighting Zuan on one side and Yu Yu on the other, looked at Mo Baichuan at this moment. Mo Baichuan, who represented the primal Yang sect, was trembling. He was naturally inarticulate, so the sorrow and helplessness in his eyes could be seen by anyone. He didn't say anything and just looked at Han Yuan. He didn't need to say anything. His expression at this moment said everything. He wanted Han Yuan to protect Yuan Hao from death. Qin Luo of the Red Devil School was feeling very complicated at this moment. For tens of thousands of years, the Primal Yang sect had been the Red Devil School's mortal enemy. It was because of Yuan Hao's existence that the Red Devil School couldn't raise its head, and the Red Devil School hadn't produced a paramount being for many years. Yuan Hao had always been the mountain that pressed down on the Red Devil School's head. With their strength, it seemed impossible to surpass him. And this mountain, because it was the primordial spirit of a human, had unlimited life. Before Qin Luo, the leaders of the Red Devil School had either died in battle or died of old age. None of them had been able to shake Yuan Hao. As conceited as Qin Luo was, he also knew that if Yuan Hao didn't die, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat him. But now, the paramount being of the Goblin Temple had made his move and enveloped the entire Primal Yang Mountain. Based on Qin Luo's shallow understanding of the Demon Phoenix and the various stories he had heard, if there was no external interference, Yuan Hao would definitely die and this mountain would fall. Once Yuan Hao died, his divine path of fire would be empty. In the future, Zhou Tsangmin could wait for the right time and use the empty divine position to ascend to godhood. In this way, the two divine paths that had been firmly controlled by the Primal Yang sect would both be taken over by the Red Devil School. The positions of the Primal Yang sect and the Red Devil School would be reversed in Qin Luo's generation. He was the only human present who wanted to see Yuan Hao die. And he knew that Tan Xiaotian of the Devil's Palace had always favored him and had always looked down on Yuan Hao. He couldn't see through Yuan Hao's cowardice. Qin Luo was secretly excited and looked forward to it. Tan Xiaotian. Han Yuan, who had walked out of the Xian Wang Dao flag, pressed one hand on Lin Doc, indicating that he shouldn't be anxious. Then, he suddenly shouted and his gaze fell on the thick darkness. Whoosh! Whoosh whoosh. The darkness that was so thick that it couldn't be dissolved suddenly surged rapidly and underwent a crazy and rapid transformation. It was as if hundreds of Dao of darkness had turned into hundreds of pitch-black lines and surged together in an instant. In an instant, all the darkness disappeared. A handsome young man in black clothes, whose feet didn't touch the ground, appeared just like that. His jet-black hair casually draped over his back and was actually longer than his body. If he wasn't suspended in the air, his jet-black hair would probably have fallen to the ground. Troublesome. He muttered and tied his jet-black hair around his waist like a black hemp rope. It seemed that by doing so, he wouldn't be in the way when they fought later. Lin Doc, if it's just you, it won't be enough. With me it should be enough. Tan Xiaotian, who was supposed to be in outer space, had descended in his true body just like that. He rolled up his sleeves and laughed strangely with an evil expression. I was chased by Kadoras, Baylor and Shura of Gojoseon all over the Milky Way before I touched an immature divine position. I worked myself to death outside every day, only to find out that my backyard was on fire. Zhu Jinyun is dead, and Yutu is half Yao. I don't believe that she didn't have a hand in it. Tan Xiaotian stared at Tian Hu and smiled. You and I contributed the most to the divine positions behind Howren. To be precise, I contributed the most. I can understand that you want the divine position from the Goblin Temple. But you actually snatched it from me. Isn't that too unethical? I was the one who fought for the divine position. What right do you have to snatch it? He also looked at Yu with an ominous glint in his eyes. Chapter 1548. Devil Master Tan Xiaotian had arrived in his true form. Everyone had thought that he was still fighting in the depths of the Starry River, somewhere far away from Howren. No one had expected him to have returned. Apparently, Han Shuyuan knew. Therefore, seeing that the situation wasn't looking good, Han Shuyuan called out his name, indicating that it was time for him to show himself. Therefore, he showed his true form as Han Shuyuan had wished. At this moment, everyone in the Howren world had a strange feeling. The entire world darkened. Some people stared at the blazing sun. They had thought that the sunlight was dazzling, but suddenly found that the blazing sun seemed to have softened strangely. Even if they continued to face the sun, their eyes could bear it. Some people pondered in front of lit oil lamps in dark secret rooms. They suddenly found that the candlelight had dimmed, as if it couldn't illuminate too far. Even the gems and pearls embedded in the stone walls didn't seem to shine as brightly. Some people were trapped in caves in the mountains. They rubbed their hands by the bonfire to warm themselves. Suddenly, they found that the light in the caves was fading bit by bit. Later, many experts from the Tianyuan continent and the Tranquil continent, as well as powerful cultivators on the islands in the depths of the sea, looked up into the sky and found that the light of the sun, moon, and stars seemed to be unable to reach Howren. The light in the 3 continents of Howren, the vast depths of the sea, and every nook and cranny was dimming. There was no sign of it happening, nor was there any reason. However, the truly noble experts with sky-high cultivation bases knew what had happened to Hao Kuang's strange change. The Devil Master, who had been trying to comprehend the essence of darkness, had probably returned from the Starry River, and hadn't deliberately concealed his dark power from Howren. In the Primal Yang sect, all the despairing cultivators on the 7 towering mountain peaks suddenly found that day and night had been reversed. The clear sky instantly turned into a pitch-black eternal night. Looking at the pitch-black sky, the Primal Yang sect cultivators didn't cry out in fear. Instead, their expressions brightened. It was as if the eternal darkness that enveloped thousands of miles of the Primal Yang sect had become their protective umbrella, their peaceful harbor. In addition, many people also felt that another mass of darkness was rapidly approaching Primal Yang Mountain in the pitch-black eternal night. Tan Shaotian! It's Tan Shaotian! Many people were cheering and screaming. Lin Tian Mountain Range. Zhu Ansdao Integration Mountain Range also dimmed when Tan Xiaozhen's true body descended. When he revealed himself to criticize the Goblin Temple and Yu Yu. Qin Luo from the Red Devil School smiled bitterly but didn't say anything. The huge sun outside of Howren that he had refined couldn't send in even a wisp of sunlight. He also did not expect that Tan Shaotian, who had always looked down on Yuan Hao, would actually jump out to challenge Demonic Phoenix. However, Qin Luo knew that the person who contributed the most to his deity position was Devil Master Tan Shaotian. Therefore, after Tan Shaotian made his attitude clear, he did not need to hesitate at all. He immediately dispelled the fantasy in his heart and chose to unite with Tan Shaotian. You! Han Kuiyuan, who had just walked out of the Xian Huang Daoist flag, saw the Devil Lord suddenly descend, and the relief that had just appeared on his face disappeared in an instant. Han Shuyuan glared at Tan Shaotian. The hand he pointed at Tan Shaotian was actually trembling. That was because Tan Shaotian had directly attacked. When his true body had merged with the cluster of darkness, this unruly fellow had covered thousands of kilometers of the Primal Yang sect's territory with darkness without saying a word. Then, he had gathered the power of darkness and officially interfered with the Demonic Phoenix's attack on Yuan Hao. Tan Shaotian was in the heaven-reaching mountain range, but most of his dark power had gone to the Primal Yang sect. The entire Primal Yang sect and thousands of miles of nearby mountains and rivers had been transformed into a land of darkness. It was as if an infinitely large black curtain had covered that area, not allowing any light from the outside world to shine in, not even the slightest bit. "What's wrong with me?" Tan Shaotian, who was hovering in midair, grinned strangely. "Lin Dao may be willing to listen to your explanation, but I don't want to hear it. Didn't you just yell at me to come back and fight? If you didn't want to fight, why did you call me back?" As he spoke, his dark power continued to devour the Primal Yang sect without delay. Han Kuiyuan was about to explain. Let's fight first. With his head tilted, Lin Dao impatiently took the sword from Tan Xiaoyan's back and gently held it in his hand. Whoosh! Lin Dao and the sword instantly merged into the silver beam of light hanging in the sky above Howren, forming an awe-inspiring sword intent that seemed to be able to kill all living things. Whoosh! 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 Countless storms of spiritual power were stirred up in the vicinity of the sword light. The storms of spiritual power seemed to be channeling rich spiritual chi of heaven and earth from every corner of the Howren realm and converging on the sword light. It was also at this moment that many human cultivators realized that they could no longer gather spiritual chi of heaven and earth from their cultivation grounds. Han Kuiyuan, who had a strong affinity with the spiritual chi of heaven and earth in Howren, was the one who felt this the most. He knew that he couldn't stop Lin Dao from gathering spiritual chi of heaven and earth like crazy. He could stop the spiritual chi of heaven and earth from pouring into the sword light, but he couldn't stop Lin Dao from attacking. After all, the copious sword power and spiritual power Lin Dao had refined in his golden hall small heaven and earth wasn't something he could shake. The only thing he could stop was the spiritual chi of heaven and earth that was flowing into the sword light. However, it was useless to stop it now. Not in Howren. Take him out and fight him. In the end, Han Kuiyuan could only moan and beg Lin Dao and Tan Xiaotian to take this battle to the Starry River. Without Lin Dao and Tan Xiaotian joining the battle, with Demonic Phoenix's ability, she could confine the battle to a single primordial Yang mountain. Perhaps she could kill Yuan Hao and at the same time, protect Hao Chong from being damaged. After all, when Yuan Hao had broken through to the Freedom Realm and chosen to fuse with the Tao, he hadn't chosen to fuse with the primal Yang sect alone. He hadn't intended to defend a single sect or sect to his death. What he had chosen to fuse with was a divine tool. He wanted to maximize the power of the divine tool and bring out the most powerful battle prowess with it. Even if Yuan Hao fought in the Starry River, his divine tool would still be infinitely powerful. However, later on, he had holed himself up in the primal Yang sect for many years, and hadn't been able to fully display the power of his divine tool in the Starry River. Some of his actions made Han Kuiyuan, Tan Xiaotian, Gu Xingkue, and the others rather critical. Back then, when he had chosen the Tao-fusing divine tool, he had also been full of passion. He had also wanted to charge and break through enemy lines for Howren and fight with the peak experts of the Starry River. He had also once been unafraid of death. That was why Han Kuiyuan had helped him obtain a divine seat. However, after a long time, his fighting spirit had disappeared. He had become as old as a Qilin and had lost his vigor. However, he couldn't bear to see his divine seat shatter. He didn't want to die as a result. He had found excuses to avoid the most tragic and cruel battles in the Starry River. Originally, he had decent battle prowess, obtained a divine seat, and had an extraordinary divine weapon. He could even use it in the Starry River. Gradually, he was looked down upon by everyone. Therefore, the first to die was Li Tianxin of the primal Yang sect. When Howren was in desperate need of a divine seat, the demonic phoenix came to find him. Tell her to drag the entire primal Yang mountain to the Starry River. Seeing Demon Lord Tan Xiaotian gradually disappear in front of him, Han Kuiyuan hurriedly glared at Tian Hu. Tian Hu nodded calmly. "Little White, just stay here. Don't go anywhere." The elder ape stood beside Tian Hu and looked at Han Kuiyuan, Qin Luo, Mo Baichuan, and the others with a fake smile. "Han Kuiyuan, you can touch the demonic phoenix, but don't try to touch Little White." As soon as he said this, everyone's expression changed slightly. The desolate god had always been hostile to the demonic phoenix and the Qilin. Everyone knew this. They also knew that he admired White Tiger. However, White Tiger was a member of the Goblin Temple and was very loyal to the Goblin Temple and the demonic phoenix. Under such circumstances, the desolate god took the initiative to express his attitude. If a battle broke out here, he would support White Tiger. Lindok, Tan Xiaotian, and you, Han Kuiyuan. If you're strong enough, I hope you can kill the demonic phoenix. As for the monsters, I even have candidates in mind, Little White and Lu Lu. If the demonic phoenix and Qilin really die, the two of them will continue to lead Howren's monsters. The elder ape grinned. It seemed that he had this idea long ago. He couldn't wait for the demonic phoenix and Qilin to die. If the old didn't go, the new wouldn't come. Among the demon race, there were a few who caught his eye and had the potential to become demon god. He was more willing to let the White Tiger and the new generation of green willows lead the great demons in the world. Stop dreaming! Han Kuiyuan snorted. After Lindok and Tan Xiaotian disappeared, he also went into the Xian Wang Dao flag. As soon as he disappeared, everyone felt the earth shake violently. Everyone looked up. Immediately, they saw the primal Yang mountain that was supposed to be in the Tianyuan continent being uprooted. It was like a huge flaming meteor that shot into the outer realm. Deep purple demonic energy surged inside the primal Yang mountain like blood. The darkness outside slowly seeped in. At this moment, in the dark Howren, Lindok's sword was so bright that no one dared to look directly at it. This bright sword light didn't contain any attributes. It was pure and unhurried as it followed the primal Yang mountain, waiting for it to fly out of Howren. Countless people raised their heads and looked at this scene, their hearts and minds trembling. Yuyuan was the same. In an unknown galaxy in the outer realm, a beam of scarlet blood light flashed through the cold and dark starry sky. Anwen, the sect master of the blood god, repeatedly used blood escape. He didn't hesitate to use a large amount of blood energy to appear as far away as possible in an instant. Whoosh! Anwen suddenly appeared on a star that had been dead for thousands of years. His pale face, which seemed to have lost a lot of blood, was filled with fatigue. In the distance, under a star that wasn't very bright, a huge demonic shadow locked onto him once more as soon as he landed. After determining the direction, the huge demonic shadow flew towards him again. Despair rose in Anwen's heart. Every time he used blood escape, it consumed a large amount of blood energy. However, blood escape wasn't a spatial secret art. It couldn't teleport him to another galaxy in an instant. Because he wasn't far enough away, he couldn't shake off his opponent. When he appeared again, he was instantly targeted. He couldn't outrun his opponent, and he couldn't escape with blood escape. The end result was that when he ran out of blood energy and couldn't even use blood escape, his opponent would come over and easily kill him. Seeing that the demonic figure was rapidly approaching, Anwen let out a sigh and prepared to use blood escape again. That was the only choice he had. Suddenly, he felt a subtle and miraculous change in the bumpy, dead land under his feet. Anwen went blank and stared blankly at his feet with a confused expression. How is this possible? Anwen couldn't help but mutter. Chapter 1549. The gravity field under Anwen's feet was exactly the same as Howren's. He felt a sense of familiarity, as if he had suddenly returned to Howren. Of course, this was impossible. The gravitational field of every star and world was different. He had been traveling in and out of various worlds for a while, so he knew that the gravitational field of every world was very different. When he landed on some stars, he would need to expend several times more blood power to fly. There were also stars where he could soar into the sky with a light stomp, and he could almost not feel the existence of gravity. In Howren, he knew all too well how much power he could use, how high he could fly, and how long he could fly. How could the gravity field of this nameless dead star be exactly the same as Howren's? Anwen's expression was strange. At this time, he was shocked to discover that the gravity field under his feet had suddenly increased. While he was thinking, it had increased dozens of times. If he wanted to fly, he would need to expend dozens of times more blood power. Anwen was slightly shocked. The first thing that appeared in his mind was the figure of the Sword of Earth, Gu Xingkue. He thought about the great Tao that Gu Xingkue had comprehended. He wondered if Gu Xingkue had the ability to directly change the core laws of the Earth and cause the gravity field to change at will on any dead star in outer space. He subconsciously shook his head. According to what he knew, the great sword immortal of the Sword sect did not have such a miraculous ability. He had also never seen anyone who could change the laws of the Earth and cause the gravity field of the Earth to change so easily. But just because he had never seen it before did not mean that he had never heard of it. Anwen's scarlet eyes gradually shone with a strange light. He had a guess in his heart, but he could not be sure. In the distance, a dark blue hurricane was rapidly drawing away the frigid astral winds in outer space. Anwen could clearly feel the violent blood power that covered the sky and earth even though he was far away in the galaxy. In the middle of the enormous storm, an enormous dark cyan demonic figure could be vaguely seen. That monstrous amount of blood energy, mixed with the violent hurricane, roared towards Qin Lai at a speed that was only slightly inferior to blood escape. Anwen sighed in his heart. He knew that even if he escaped again, he would still be found. Once he left the star beneath his feet and went to another place, perhaps even his last shred of hope would be shattered. It was also at this moment that Anwen heard a faintly discernible voice. "The little girl is fine." Anwen was greatly shaken. His heart, which was hanging in the air, immediately calmed down. When he found out from the Tongtian Trading Company that Qilin wanted to kill him in outer space, he decisively separated from Enziching. Because he was very clear that the Qilin's primary target would definitely be him. Before leaving, he didn't even dare to ask his daughter where she was going to escape to. He was afraid that if he was killed by the Qilin would be able to extract this memory from his soul. He was afraid that the Qilin would continue to pursue Enziching. Hearing that thought, Anwen finally relaxed, knowing that his guess was correct. Therefore, he waited for the Qilin's arrival on this dead star. He didn't have to wait for long before the dark green hurricane landed on the ground beneath his feet. Boom! After the earth shook for a while, the Qilin, who was hundreds of thousands of meters tall and emanated a towering demonic aura, revealed his true form. He had a head like a fierce lion, long antlers, and a body like an elk covered in green scales. His hooves were as thick as small hills. Howran, the demon god of the demon god palace. The Qilin. As soon as he landed, the hurricane wrapped in star power in the cold, dark galaxy nearby took the initiative to fly towards him. Whoosh, 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 whoosh. The raging wind was so fast that it sounded like the roars of 10,000 beasts. It made one's scalp tingle. Thick demonic energy spread out from the Qilin's hooves in all directions, as if it wanted to seal the entire small world in an extremely short time to prevent Anwen from using blood escape again. "Why aren't you running anymore?" The Qilin's enormous demonic body took up nearly 1/10 of this dead star. Its enormous demonic eyes were like two green suns. He looked at Anwen, who was standing where he was and no longer struggling, with a hint of doubt in his heart. According to his judgment, Anwen would need to use blood escape dozens of times before he ran out of blood power. Obviously, Anwen still had energy left. He could continue to run, and there was still a chance for him to survive, but Anwen suddenly stopped moving and assumed a suicidal posture. He found it very strange. "I'm not running anymore." Anwen had completely calmed down. When the Qilin landed, he sat directly on the ground. "I'm going to die either way. I don't care anymore." "All right. I'll send you on your way first, then kill your daughter." The Qilin's eyes were filled with indifference. "When I return to Howran, I'll also eliminate the blood god." Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Enormous storms formed in the dead star. Each of them covered an area of tens of thousands of acres. They began to madly devour the astral winds and all kinds of filth in the galaxy. Then, the enormous storms were wrapped in the Cheelant's demonic energy and spun, revealing a ruthless aura that could kill everything. The Cheelant, who controlled the power of the storms, was even taller than a mountain, but he flew lightly into the air. He was enormous, but when he flew, he gave people a strange feeling that he was incomparably light and agile. Looking at the Cheelant, Anwen felt powerless. This storm demonic god, who had lived for an unknown number of years and was highly valued by the demonic phoenix, was as swift as a breeze, and as terrifying as a storm or hurricane. He, who had not obtained a deity position, was definitely not a match for the Cheelant with his current combat strength. Boom! The Cheelant, who was floating in the air and controlling the enormous storms and absorbing energy from the galaxy, suddenly fell to the ground again. The difference was that when he landed the first time, he had done so voluntarily. But this time, he was pulled by the gravitational field. The gravitational field under his feet increased by hundreds of times in an instant. Deep underground, there seemed to be an enormous magnet that was madly sucking in all material things. The Cheelant felt that something was wrong. A bird's nest made of vines and branches suddenly appeared in the storms that were formed under his influence. It spread the aura of destruction, death, and rebirth. Fear flashed through the Cheelant's enormous eyes. He exclaimed, "The immortal bird!" Having accompanied the demonic phoenix and hunted star behemoths with it, he knew too well what the immortal bird meant and the grudge between the demonic phoenix and the immortal bird. Not long ago, the Peacock King, who had betrayed the Goblin Temple, was killed by the demonic phoenix because he chose to be loyal to the immortal bird. After so many years, the immortal bird had been reborn and reappeared in the world. Naturally, it was going to take revenge. Wasn't he the best target for the immortal bird to take revenge on? The moment the Cheelant saw the bird's nest, he knew that the situation was not good. He knew that after chasing Anwen for so long and exposing his tracks, he had finally attracted the immortal bird. What he was thinking was, to what extent had the undying bird recovered? Was there enough power to kill him in the galaxy beyond the heavens? Ha ha! Hearty laughter suddenly came from the depths of the earth. Hearing the laughter, the Cheelant felt his scalp tingle. He did not dare to hesitate any more, and was about to soar into the sky to get rid of the balance of the earth under his feet. Taishur! The Cheelant roared, knowing that he had fallen into a trap. He also knew what he would encounter in the earth that Taishur had changed. He was not afraid of the immortal bird at this moment, but he was afraid of Taishur, who had completed the laws of the earth. Taishur of the Shunhun sect was the Cheelant's natural enemy and the bane of his life. His so-called lightness, his speed, and his use of the law of storm would be greatly weakened in front of Taishur, who knew almost all the laws of the earth. And now that Genesis Supreme had succeeded in establishing his law of the earth on another star, the star beneath his feet had already become Genesis Supreme's domain of divinity. He could sense the heaviness, and he knew that his enormous body, every drop of blood, his bones that weighed tens of thousands of June, and the lightness of the wind within them were all being pulled by the magnetic force of the earth, becoming harder and harder to control. Boom! With a strength that was hundreds of times stronger than usual, he charged towards the river of stars above him. Because of the boiling of his blood and the loss of his energy, part of his mountain-like body cracked. However, he seemed to feel no pain. He only wanted to get rid of the earth under his feet as soon as possible. Then, at the price of his skin and flesh being torn, he finally soared into the sky again, as if he were carrying thousands of mountains. He roared angrily, wanting to rush out of this place and enter the vast starry river. He planned to not set foot on any planet in the starry river and leave as soon as possible to avoid being surrounded. Suddenly, a golden realm wall appeared above the dead silent planet, completely covering the earth that Taishur had sealed. Looking down from above, it looked like a giant golden eggshell. The sky doesn't work either. Yu Yuan's figure appeared under the golden realm wall. Lowering his head, Yu Yuan looked at the incomparably huge Qilin and felt the tremendous blood power that was almost as great as the Chaos Kuan's. He smiled brightly. The golden realm wall formed by the dragon beheading platform combined the coldness of the frost dragon and the seal of the dragon of space and time. However, the strongest defensive power still came from the enormous golden dragon. From the golden realm wall, he was able to sense what it meant to be truly sturdy. It was invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. It was almost immune to all physical attacks. Bang! The Qilin, which was like a giant cyan mountain, failed to break the golden realm wall with the violent strength of a demon god. Instead, it fell heavily again. Taisher sealed the earth, and Yu Yuan sealed the sky with the dragon beheading platform. Both heaven and earth were impregnable. At this moment, a scene flashed through Yu Yuan's mind. In ancient times, the leader of the dragon race, the golden dragon, really had a dragon body that was like golden divine iron. The golden dragon, which had gathered countless metal essences from Howren and outer space and refined them into its dragon body, was immune to all physical attacks that could be seen with the naked eye. No matter if it was a sword, a spear, or the great Tao of fire and ice, as long as it was an attack controlled by spirit power and blood power, none of them could break its golden dragon body. The golden dragon had died because of the death of its dragon soul, not its dragon body. In that era, the person whose soul was so powerful that it was boundless and could kill the golden dragon was naturally him in his first life. Yu Yuan, who was in outer space, couldn't help but think when the golden dragon's figure flashed through his mind. If Long Jie, who had become a god and refined countless metal essences from outer space, whose dragon body was almost completely refined into metal, appeared in Howren with peak combat strength. Could Lin Doc, Tan Xiaotian, Han Yuan, and even that demonic phoenix really kill him? The origami was standing beside the white celestial tiger. If a battle were to break out in the mountain range of heaven, thinking of the consequences, Han Kuo felt his scalp go numb. It could be said that he had done everything he could to strengthen the human race. The reason why Howren could have such a noble status in the depths of the outer realms and dominate the hundreds of races was because of the unity between the human race and the demon race. If it was in Howren, the human race and the demon race would never stop fighting each other. How could Howren be where it was now? Two deity positions. If it had been given to someone else, that person in the Goblin Temple might have been able to accept it. But if it's the dragon race, Old Yuan, who knew the inside story, grinned and laughed in a gloating manner. As long as she has something to do with that thing, she won't be able to get any benefit. Also, the dragon race hates her the most. Long Jie and Zhong Qichen successfully became gods, allowing the dragon race to have two dragon gods, and they are the golden dragon and the spacetime dragon. Haha. The origami's smile was very thought-provoking. He just looked at the Xianwang Dao flag. If we follow Zhong Qichen's suggestion and let the Qilin die, only she and Little White will be left in the Goblin Temple. But her mortal enemy, the dragon race, suddenly has Long Jie and the spacetime dragon. Do you think she can really tolerate it? As soon as these words were said, everyone present immediately understood. They understood why the demonic phoenix would do such a crazy thing. Because if they really did as Zhong Qichen wished and let the Qilin die, and let Long Jie and Zhong Qichen become gods, the demon god temple would only have two demon gods left, her and the white celestial tiger. The dragon race would also suddenly have two dragon gods in an instant. When the hidden danger of the Gate of Origin was resolved, and Long Jie would take the opportunity to recover to his peak strength, she and Celestial Tiger would find it difficult to face the Golden Dragon and the Spacetime Dragon at their peak strength. With the Qilin and 3 demon gods alive, it would be better no matter how one looked at it. Therefore, even if the Qilin were to die, it could not be in the near future. At the very least, she would have to deal with Long Jie in the future. Mr. Han. Celestial Tiger suddenly spoke at this moment. Han Kuo's soul shadow was clear and distinct under the Xian Wang Dao flag. His expression was serious. Please speak. She also said something. Celestial Tiger considered his words and was slightly confused. He seemed to think that the golden dragon he was about to talk about was really worth that person's attention. She said that Long Jie is a pure-blooded golden dragon. When Long Jie successfully becomes a level 10 dragon god, he will rush out of Howren when Zhong Qichen returns to Howren to receive the godhood. He will then gather divine metal in the vast outer realms and reforge his dragon body. Zhong Qichen will buy time for him. After the hidden danger of the Gate of Origin is resolved, he will help him achieve this. With the help of the Spacetime Dragon, Long Jie will have a very smooth journey in the outer realms. It will also be very difficult for us to find Long Jie and kill him before the Golden Dragon's ultimate dragon body is formed. In other words, a golden dragon at his peak will reappear in Howren. She wants to ask you, in the era when Taiying died, who can stop a golden dragon at his peak? You've lived through that era. Think carefully. Do the current Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian have the power to kill a dragon? Are the two of them masters of the Tao of the Soul? Heavenly Tiger relayed Demonic Phoenix's words. To this new generation of man who, the era when the dragons ruled Howren was too long ago. He hadn't lived through that era. The dragons he came into contact with now didn't have a dragon god, so he didn't think it was that scary. Even he felt that Demonic Phoenix's uneasiness toward the golden dragon was a bit exaggerated. However, after he said this, he found that Han Yuan, the desolate god, and the specter god Yu had all fallen silent. Even Yu Yuan, who was left here as a Yin soul and was very young, had a thoughtful expression on his face. It was as if he knew how terrifying the golden dragon was. Is a golden dragon at his peak really that strong? Qin Luo of the Red Devil School asked curiously. Zuan looked at Yu Yu. Yu Yu had experienced that era. Thus, he naturally knew how powerful the Dragon Clan's clan chief was back then. The Spacetime Dragon is just difficult to deal with and difficult to kill. After all, he's proficient in the power of time and space. Yu Yu nodded slightly. He thought back to the golden dragon that ruled the heavens and said, the strongest form of the golden dragon can only be dealt with through the soul. His dragon body can easily destroy the stars in outer space. The sun, the moon, the stars, and everything that can be seen with the naked eye can be destroyed with a touch. Only when his dragon soul dies and his dragon body returns to its original form can we kill him. And now, Yu Yu looked at the majestic white tiger and Han Yuan under the Xian Wang flag. He didn't hide it anymore. If the golden dragon at his peak reappears in the world, I have to work with that person from the Goblin Temple, and Long Jie must be in Howren to have a chance of killing him. After the death of the Taiying deity, Yu Yu was the strongest in Howren when it came to souls. He had exchanged secret techniques with the Taiying deity, so he had the highest chance of killing the golden dragon. After hearing Yu Yu's words, Tianhu's expression turned serious. He then added, she said that if the one who dies is not Yuan Hao, but the Qilin, then, when Long Jie recovers to his peak and returns to Howren to seek revenge, you, Han Yuan, will be responsible for dealing with him. If you're confident that you can deal with such a Long Jie, then the Qilin can die. Think carefully. Tianhu sat on the rock and didn't say another word. He followed Lin Doc's example and closed his eyes. Han Yuan's soul shadow under the Xian Wang flag gradually faded. At this time, Yu Yu looked at Yu Yuan with a strange expression. Yu Yuan pretended not to notice. On an unknown dead star in the outer realms, the Qilin roared angrily. He charged into the sky again and again from the ground sealed by Tysher. He crashed heavily into the Golden Realm wall and then fell to the ground. In this process, Genesis Supreme, whose divine figure had yet to appear, simply chuckled from underground. He chuckled and used the law of earth that he was in control of. Then, sharp, prismatic mountains rose from the cold and desolate land outside the sky. Mountains that were thousands of feet tall were suddenly formed as if they had been molded into mud balls by a god. Then, more than a dozen mountains of the same size rose from the ground like Howren's primordial Yang Mountain and pierced toward the Cheelant's huge body. Roar! Roar! The mountain peaks that were thousands of feet tall pierced the Cheelant's body like sharp spears and swords, causing sparks to fly from his cyan scales. The Cheelant howled in pain and shook his beard. Then, many giant storms rushed toward the nest under the Golden Realm wall. He could feel that the immortal bird was in the nest, but it didn't show up. He also knew that the main force to kill him wasn't the Tysher Divine King underground, but the immortal bird that hated the demonic phoenix. As for Yu Yuan in the Cheelant's eyes, he was just a lucky guy who was favored by the dragon beheading platform. Other than activating the power of the dragon beheading platform and forming a forbidden space, there was nothing for him to worry about. Whoosh! High up in the sky, Yu Yuan teleported to Anwen's side. The Golden Realm wall formed by the dragon beheading platform was completely under his control and appeared in front of this small world. Tysher and Chen Qinghuang also said that he wasn't needed in this battle. Yu Yuan, if the Cheelant dies, what about me? Anwen's eyes were burning. His desire for a godhood was so obvious. He had escaped from Howren and entered the outer realms of the outer realms for a godhood. He knew that if he had a godhood, he would be one of the supreme beings and the Cheelant wouldn't be able to kill him. It's not that I don't want to help you. It's just that it's extremely difficult for you to ascend to godhood through vast sea. Yu Yuan sighed softly. The path I showed you before is your only way out. Chapter 1551. Is there really no hope for me? Anwen's eyes were filled with pleading. In the depths of his heart, he actually rejected getting close to the source of the Yang Meridian. Because he came from Howren, he saw himself as a part of Howren. As long as there was even the slightest hope of obtaining a godhood in Howren and ascending to the ranks of the highest, he didn't want to seek outside help. And the source of the Yang Meridian that created the blood demons turned out to be the enemy in his heart. It was also because of this that Anwen was still wavering after rushing out of Howren. His determination was still not very firm. I'm sorry to tell you that as far as I know, even if there is a vacancy for a godhood, when you condense it, you will also. Yu Yuan shook his head and dispelled the glimmer of hope in his heart. Your path can only be from the outside world. From the moment you started cultivating the secret technique of the blood god and started refining drops of foreign blood, your fate was sealed. At this point, his eyes showed that he was deep in thought. What he was thinking was that his Yang spirit had a complete life force. According to Tysher, he was opening a new godhood path for himself and for Howren. And this godhood path would have a great conflict with the demonic phoenix. The demonic phoenix of Howren could almost use her blood energy to suppress all great demons, even human powerhouses like Tianqi and Zhongli De. Other than the supreme descendants of the Titanspinosaurus, who were not restrained by her blood, even the human race was more or less restrained by her. His Yang spirit body contained the true meaning of life. It was definitely not something that Anwen could compare to. He only needed to fully comprehend the great Tao of life to have a high chance of becoming a godhood. He was not bound by the demonic phoenix, and the power of the source of life seemed to be able to directly threaten the demonic phoenix's position in Howren. He couldn't help but look at the floating regeneration nest. Her Majesty and the demonic phoenix had a deep grudge. Her Majesty had long known of his identity, and also knew that he was comprehending some power in this life. She had helped him time and time again to condense his yang spirit and selflessly strengthened him. But was that why? Perhaps, regardless of whether he was willing or not, as long as he was comprehending the true meaning of life and wanted to ascend to godhood, he would definitely oppose the demonic phoenix. Not to mention, in his first life, he already had a huge grudge against the demonic phoenix. Therefore, he and Chen Qinghuang were natural allies when it came to the demon phoenix. Forget it, let's not think about this anymore. Anwen shook his head dejectedly. He raised his head and stared at the Qilin with a frown. How did he die? I don't know about the other Yao gods, but it's said that the demonic phoenix can sense when he's facing certain death. Whether it's in Howren or in outer space, the demonic phoenix can sense it. The demonic phoenix can't even take care of itself. Yu Yuan smiled. The Yin spirit he had left in Howren didn't know what was happening in the outer realms. However, the Yang spirit in outer space could let him know how big the changes in the Howren Great Realm were through the news from the Shenhun Sex Tianqi, the ruins of End, and the Tongtian Trading Company. His true self hadn't come to this place after leaving the Great Lake of Desolate God. Instead, he had come to the lair of death in the Dark Wing domain. In the lair of death, he had only waited for the Empress to summon him. Soon, he learned that the demonic phoenix had gone to the primal Yang sect and killed Yuan Hao as soon as he had left. When the Empress had pulled him from the lair of death to the lair of rebirth, he also learned that Devil Master Tan Xiaotian and Lin Dok of the Sword sect couldn't help but join the battle. She can't come? Anwen asked in shock. What's going on in Howren? Tan Xiaotian and Lin Dok joined forces to kill her. She doesn't want the Qilin to die, so she wants to kill Yuan Hao, Yu Yuan explained casually. The demonic phoenix couldn't split herself, and the white tiger had been left behind by Han Yuan in the heaven-reaching mountain range. No one from the demon race could help. The Qilin was isolated and helpless. He and Taisher had set up a grand seal of heaven and earth. If he stayed in this world, only death would await him. She has an old grudge with the demonic phoenix. She wants to kill the Qilin and break one of the demonic phoenix's wings. Yu Yuan looked up and sensed the vast power gradually emerging from the lair of rebirth. After the Qilin dies, she'll help deal with the demonic phoenix when the Shenhun sect and the Goblin Temple go to war. Anwen turned pale with fright. At this moment, whoosh! A beautiful giant cyan bird flew out of the lair of rebirth under the Golden Realm barrier. Its blade-like wings spread death and destruction. The Empress flapped her wings gently as she appeared in this small world in the form of the undying bird. Balls of black destructive flames that were even larger than the storms the Qilin had created exploded on the Qilin's body like giant mushroom clouds. Gray-white blades of death rippled with a deathly power that could annihilate life and fell on the Qilin's body. The scales covering the Qilin's body were actually continuously shattering and falling off. Before the Empress even got close, the Qilin was already covered in wounds. Yu Yuan and Anwen stared at the beautiful giant cyan bird that spread death and destruction. They were fascinated and terrified at the same time. Taisher's great Tao can restrict the Qilin's power. The dragon-slaying platform in my hand can prevent the Qilin from escaping. Yu Yuan smiled. And she's the main force that killed the Qilin. She hasn't recovered her full strength yet. Otherwise, she wouldn't have needed Taisher's help. Yu Yuan felt that the giant cyan bird in front of him was just Chen Qinghuang's Yang spirit. The Empress's Yang spirit, which had been successfully created by combining her blood and soul, had undergone another transformation after returning to the Outer Star River and returning to the Holy Land of the Winged Clan and the Dark Spirit Clan through various battles. The potential of her blood and soul had completely erupted, condensing into the form of the undying bird and reproducing the power of the giant beast of the starry sky. But this Chen Qinghuang was not the strongest form, and there was still infinite room for growth. She could still improve her soul power, she also had a Yin spirit, and she also had a true body, The undying bird in front of him was just a transformation of the Yang spirit. Through her and her undying bird form, Yu Yuan seemed to see the direction and knew what kind of miracle his Yang spirit would become if it continued. Swish! The graceful and agile undying bird swooped down, and her serrated wings swept across the Qilint's broad back. Hundreds of cyan scales and thick cyan blood fell from the Qilint's body in midair. The Qilin roared in pain. He, who had stained the ground with blood, also felt that Taisher, who was hiding deep underground, had figured out more restrictions and seals that were only targeted at him with his blood. His body became heavier and heavier, but the undying bird was immune to Taisher's gravity field, so it was not affected at all. The Qilin felt that he was getting closer and closer to death, so he used a bloodline secret technique that only he and the demonic phoenix knew to call for help. For tens of thousands of years, he had used this bloodline secret technique to successfully communicate with the demonic phoenix several times when he was on the verge of death. Then, the demonic phoenix would quickly respond and ask him to wait. Every time, the demonic phoenix would arrive. But this time, there was finally an exception. His call and bloodline communication did not get a response. For the first time, the Qilin felt what despair was. In the meteorite gold mining area in outer space, the mining area that had been secretly taken over by the Tongtian Trading Company consisted of 5 broken stars, which contained rich meteorite gold. They had been secretly mining it before. Recently, the higher-ups had issued an order to expel all the miners of the fallen gold. Swish! Swish! On the surface and under the ground of the 5 fragmentary stars, there were streams of golden streams that were condensed from refined meteorites, which were converging towards a towering mountain of gold. This mountain of gold had been the first one in Hauran, and had been refined by President Li. At this moment, President Li, who was continuously extracting meteorite gold essence from the 5 broken stars, had a heart inside of him that was shining with golden light, as if it had been smeared with gold leaf. Except for President Li and his trusted subordinates, no one else knew about this place. No one was allowed to enter. However, all of a sudden, Zhong Qichen, who was wearing a rainbow-colored robe and holding a skull between his fingers, appeared without any warning. With a smile at the corner of his mouth, rainbow-colored ripples spread out under his feet. President Li, is it? You're pretty smart. Did you change your mind because you knew that path wouldn't work? With a thought, President Li turned the dazzling mountain of gold into a throne. He sat up straight and stared at Zhong Qichen for a while. Then, he sensed that the current Zhong Qichen could not threaten him. As the president of the Tongtian Trading Company, of course he knew that Zhong Qichen was the dragon of space and time from ancient times. What can I do for you? President Li was in a bad mood, and his attitude was impatient. Long Jie will soon ascend to godhood. Zhong Qichen squinted his eyes with a smile, playing with the skull in his hand. He looked at the tiny soul flames of Jianing and said, "You should know what will happen in the vast sea of stars after Long Jie becomes a god, right?" President Li's expression changed dramatically. Obviously, he was shocked by this news. So soon? Zhong Qichen smiled but didn't say anything. President Li took a deep breath. If the rumors are correct, after he becomes a level 10 golden dragon, the first person he wants to kill should be the Shura of Gojoseon, Sabonis, right? You know everything. Zhong Qichen looked relieved. Since I'm on the same path as him, and he's the end of this path, I have to know more about him. President Li smiled bitterly. I really hope that the Shura of Gojoseon wasn't seriously injured. I really hope that Alonso didn't die so quickly. Sabonis dared to go against that person's will. It would be strange if he didn't die. Zhong Qichen's eyes were full of sarcasm. Even when we were at our strongest, we feared Sabonis. Sabonis doesn't know what's good for him. Haha, if Long Jie's ancestor hadn't been killed by Tain, how could the Shura clan be prosperous? The Shura clan is really pitiful. TSK, Alonso helped you, but Sabonis will be killed by Long Jie. Tan Xiaotian has almost figured out the Dark Realm, and even their nest will be destroyed. Zhong Qichen sighed and suddenly said, "Help me do one thing, and I promise you that after Long Jie becomes a god, you can still live." President Li was silent for a long time and sighed. "Say it." Chapter 1552. In the Heaven Mountain Range. Yu Yuan, Yu Yu, Zuan, and the others sat there, waiting for the result of the battle in outer space, and for Han Yuan to make a choice. After the Desolate God and Tianhu united, the two demon gods stopped talking. Old Bai Yu Yuan was slightly surprised. After flying away from Zuan and Yu Yu, he came to Mo Baichuan and asked, "What's wrong with you?" Mo Baichuan, who came here with his original body, was blushing, and his body was trembling violently. Everyone could understand that he was in a bad mood, and they also knew that he felt aggrieved because when the demonic phoenix attacked Yuan Hao, he found that he couldn't do anything. Although Tan Xiaotian and Lin Dok made their moves one after another, Han Yuan was obviously shaken again after Tianhu mentioned the threat of Long Xie becoming a god. Everyone could feel Mo Baichuan's mood, but his current situation didn't seem to be because of his bad mood. Ha! Qin Luo of the Red Devil School suddenly chuckled. He only glanced at him and knew what had happened. He couldn't help but say, "Mo Baichuan, although your original body and Yin spirit are here, your Yang spirit, has it gone to the Earth's core and officially started to try?" As soon as he said this, the Desolate God, Zuan, and the others, who knew what was in the Earth's core, suddenly had a strange look in their eyes. Zuan sighed softly, looked at Mo Baichuan at this moment, and said, "Why?" Yu Yuan couldn't help but look at him. Zuan explained, "The fire of the Earth's core in Howrah needs to be suppressed by the cold energy of the 9 nether cold abyss from the 7 extreme cold star regions. This raging flame was much, much fiercer than the extraterrestrial flames we knew, or even the sun. So far, no one has been able to understand its mystery, and no one has been able to successfully become a god with it. However, if someone can really reach the highest level with the fire of the Earth's core," Zuan paused for a moment and said, "it should be extremely terrifying." Yu Yu said indifferently, "Even the flame dragon in ancient times didn't understand the fire of the Earth's core and didn't dare to set foot in it." Yu Yuan immediately understood. "Old Bai, this path is too dangerous, and there's no precedent of success. Don't be rash." Yu Yuan's Yin spirit approached Mo Baichuan and said in a deep voice, "If Yuan Hao dies, his god path will be empty. You can actually use this divine path to successfully ascend to the paramount deity position." When he said this, Qin Luo from the Red Devil School couldn't sit still anymore. She couldn't help but snort. "Yu Yuan, if Yuan Hao dies, Zhou Tsangmin can become a god." Qin Luo mentioned Zhou Tsangmin to remind Yu Yuan not to interfere. "We can compete fairly," Yu Yuan shouted. Mo Baichuan's body shook violently, and thick smoke seemed to rise from his golden hall microcosm. His expression was pained, and his entire body was drenched in sweat, as if he was enduring the burning flames. And this was only because his Yang spirit had just touched the outermost edge of the Earth core flame. The Yang spirit was connected to his true body, and his golden hall microcosm and 9 flame acupoints were connected to it. His true body was also affected. His true body was like this, which meant that his Yang spirit, which was facing the Earth core flame, was suffering dozens of times more. Looking at his pained expression, everyone could imagine how miserable his Yang spirit was on the other side. "I'd rather die on this unknown god path." Mo Baichuan, through these words, glanced at the Xian Wang Dao flag erected in front of the deep valley, and suddenly flew away. He didn't follow Han Yuan's order, nor did he say anything to Zuan, and directly left the heaven-reaching mountain range. because his flesh and blood couldn't withstand the violent heat of the earth core flame, he participated in the meeting with his true body. As for his yang spirit, he stayed at a gate that led to the earth core flame, feeling the burning flames at the edge, and was not in a hurry to enter. After the demonic phoenix appeared in the primordial yang sect and killed Yuan Hao, he finally made the decision after seeing everyone's reaction while suffering in his heart. With the combination of spiritual power and soul, his yang spirit, which was like a fire crystal, officially came into contact with the earth core flame. He started from the outermost edge. Whether Yuan Hao was dead or alive, it couldn't change his determination to pursue the Tao. He directly gave up all the great Tao of fire, and only wanted to ascend with Haoran's earth core flame. Even if Yuan Hao could ascend with his god path, what could he do? He still couldn't defeat the demonic phoenix. Since Yuan Hao's god path couldn't let him take revenge in the future, once Haoran was in danger, he would be found by the demonic phoenix, or abandoned by Han Yuan like Ji Tianyu. Mo Baichuan, who had already flown out of the heaven-reaching mountain range, shook his head. He had never been so determined. He left just like that? Qin Luo was stunned. No matter what the result is, his choice made me look at him in a new light. Reverence appeared in the old ape's demonic eyes. Although the possibility of success is very low, he also knows that even if he walks on Yuan Hao's god path, he can't fight against the demonic phoenix. Only by opening the god path of the earth core flame can he give the primordial yang sect hope to rise again in the future. Li Tianxin was dead, and Yuan Hao might also die. Without the supreme primordial yang sect, it would directly fall to a lower sect. If he didn't open a powerful god path, Mo Baichuan knew that he would never be able to take revenge. He didn't want to be abandoned by Han Yuan at a certain time like his sect master Yuan Hao, Ji Tianyu, and Gu Xingkue. Paths are all for people to walk. In the beginning, those who entered the sun were also burned to death. But now, isn't it a smooth god path? Zuan looked at Qin Luo. He chose to fuse with the heaven overlook mountain range and protect this land. Looking at the gate of origin behind him, he said, I'm not familiar with Mo Baichuan, and we don't have much of a friendship, but I hope he can succeed. I hope so too, the desolate god said. Yu Yuan nodded with mixed feelings. He knew that if Mo Baichuan really succeeded and could ascend to godhood with Haoran's earth core flame, no one would dare to sacrifice him. Because if he did that, he might be able to detonate the earth core flame and turn Haoran into ashes. If Yuan Hao could ascend to godhood with this, Han Yuan and the demonic phoenix wouldn't dare to think about it. No one would dare to touch him. Besides, if Mo Baichuan really opened a new god path with this, he might be able to suppress the earth core flame for a while when something happened at the 7 frigid abyss entrances. Maybe we won't see him again, Qin Luo said carelessly. If we can see him again, he should have gained some enlightenment on the god path of the earth core flame. Of course, this is far from enough. He has to stay alive. As long as he can stay alive and get closer to the real earth core flame, he will have hope. The desolate god was full of expectations. Deep Sea Dragon Island. Long Jie's dragon body was like a great golden wall, shining with golden light on the beach. He was also looking at the sky, wondering why Tan Xiaotian, Lin Doc, the demonic phoenix, and Yuan Hao suddenly broke out in battle. Because the dragon race had always been marginalized, he didn't receive any news. The 5 supreme forces and the Tongtian Trading Company didn't pay much attention to the dragon race before, until Yu Yuan returned from outer space not long ago and suddenly landed on Dragon Island. Long Jie saw the Titanspinosaurus in the dragon beheading platform and knew why Haoran's law to keep the dragon race in check was broken. Only then did he feel slightly valued. At that moment, Long Jie's fighting spirit was reignited, and his dragon blood boiled again. Lin Doc's appearance forced him to face reality. He knew that even if there was a vacancy, it wouldn't be his turn. Gradually, Long Jie didn't dare to have too many fantasies. Therefore, even though he knew that the supreme beings of Howren were fighting in outer space, something big must have happened, he didn't care that much anymore. After all, he wouldn't get any benefits. Splash. In the sea in front of Long Jie, a petite figure stood on a crystal ball and suddenly jumped out of the water. And Long Jie didn't sense anything at all. With his strength, it was very unreasonable for someone to appear in front of him at such a close distance and emerge from the deep sea more than 10 meters away. However, when he squinted his eyes and recognized the figure in the crystal ball, he suddenly knew the reason. The president of the Tongtian Trading Company in Howren came personally and even brought along a treasure. No wonder he could avoid his detection. President Shi, your presence brings light to Dragon Island. Long Jie looked at the crystal ball that moved to the beach indifferently. He didn't have the intention to transform into a human form. I've brought gifts and good news. There was a subtle smile on Shi Jing-er's beautiful face. When the crystal ball stopped moving, she walked out lightly and put a bright yellow interspatial ring under Long Jie's giant golden dragon head. Then, she immediately returned to the crystal ball as if she didn't want to be noticed. When Long Jie's eyes landed on the interspatial ring, it flew into the air. The small interspatial ring landed on his nose like an inconspicuous spot. He sent a wisp of soul consciousness into it and saw bottles of blood. There were silver scale race, Shura race, other races, and even beasts. Almost all of them were level 9 essence blood. Moreover, there was an eye-catching bottle of golden blood. The blood chi energy coming from it made Long Jie's expression change. The blood of a golden Shura? Is it that, Alonso? Shi Jing-er nodded. President Li prepared something for himself. Why did he give it to me? Long Jie was puzzled. He snorted and said, He's been wary of me all this time. Why is he suddenly so kind? Shi Jing-er didn't hide anything and said honestly, because you're about to become a dragon god. She was trying to please him, but her natural and sincere tone made it easy for people to have a good impression of her. Me! Long Jie finally turned over on the beach. He had lost his will to fight against Lindok once, so he didn't think it was a gift from the sky. Don't joke with me like this. I'm Shi Jing-er, and I came here in person. Do you think I would joke with you like this? Long Jie's body trembled slightly. Dazzling golden electric arcs interweaved, turning him into a human being instantly. He breathed heavily while holding the cosmos ring in one hand. Glaring at Shi Jing-er, he asked, Who is it? Who gave me the deity position? Space and Time Dragon, Zhong Chichen. Shi Jing-er sighed and looked at the golden dragon's burning eyes. The battle in outer space was to give you a deity position first. Xuantianzong, Ji Tianyu will also disperse her cultivation and break her deity position. Get ready for Zhong Chichen. Long Jie, who felt like a gift from the sky, was stunned by this good news. How is that possible? How is that possible? Long Jie murmured and repeated. Shi Jing-er didn't explain much. She knew that Long Jie would understand what happened soon. She came to congratulate him first and gave him a gift because she received a message from President Li. She knew that since Long Jie's path to becoming a god was unstoppable, President Li could only pray that Long Jie wouldn't point his sharp dragon horn at him after becoming a god. Chapter 1553. In the deep space of the outer realm, the sky and the earth were all sealed unknown stars. The Qilin, who controlled the power of the storm, fell into a huge pit in the ground. His scales cracked one by one. Huff, huff. He was still panting, but his demon soul was dead silent. It was like a withered tree without any vitality. However, his heart was beating strongly and powerfully. It was deafening. His demon soul was dead. As long as his heart was still beating, He was still alive for a demon god like him. The huge regeneration lair seemed to have turned into a strange vine monster that wrapped around the Cheelant's body that was larger than a mountain. Sharp branches pierced through the scales on the Cheelant's body and pierced into his flesh. The branches that built the regeneration lair were like strange blood vessels that were extracting the Cheelant's flesh and blood. The mountain-like Cheelant slowly began to shrink. In midair, Chen Qinghuang quietly stopped in her human form. Lowering her head, she looked at the dying Cheelant with an indifferent gaze. She did not say a word. Her regeneration lair was already extracting pieces of the Cheelant's flesh and taking away the strong vitality from the Cheelant's body. The Cheelant's flesh, tendons, and bones would fuse with her regeneration lair and be purified by the lair. Then, she would absorb it to strengthen herself. The deep pit where the Cheelant landed cracked open. Immediately, dark green demon blood flowed out from the cracks in the Cheelant's scales and flowed towards the crack in the ground. If one looked carefully, they would find that there was a huge bronze coffin in the crack in the ground. The Cheelant's demon blood was absorbed by the bronze coffin. As soon as it flowed to the lid of the coffin, it was directly swallowed. Sect Masterin, please keep this a secret. Also, Taisher's voice sounded from the bronze coffin deep underground. He said leisurely, "You are fine now. That little girl is also fine. You can go to the Thousand-Bird Realm or anywhere else. Next, we have something to discuss." A large hole suddenly appeared in the ground under Anwen's feet. He could use this hole to go to the starry sky outside. Anwen, who had witnessed the Cheelant's doomsday, was still chatting with Yu Yuan. He still wanted to see the Cheelant completely die. When he heard Taisher's words, he couldn't help but glance at Yu Yuan. Taisher wanted to chase people away, but he didn't chase Yu Yuan away. He wanted to see if Yu Yuan could say a few good words. He could only rely on Yu Yuan. When Yu Yuan opened his mouth to speak, Taisher's gentle voice sounded again. "Sorry, it's not convenient for him to hear what I'm about to say." Anwen smiled bitterly and didn't want to make things difficult for Yu Yuan. He thanked Taisher and jumped into the hole that had just formed. As soon as he left, Yu Yuan also rose into the air and stood side by side with Chen Qinghuang, who was used to wearing a dragon robe and an imperial crown. When he turned his head, he didn't see Chen Qinghuang's face under the beaded curtain. Generally speaking, when there were outsiders, Chen Qinghuang wasn't willing to show his face. Let's not talk about that thing in the dragon beheading platform for the time being, including Taisher. The fewer people who know about this, the better. Her cold voice rippled in Yu Yuan's heart. However, her gaze was still on the ground. She said, "According to the agreement, the Cheelant's blood belongs to Taisher. I will fuse the flesh and bones into the regeneration lair. As for the Cheelant's heart, I will give it to you in the end. You will refine it into the Yang God." Yu Yuan was slightly stunned. Taisher was below. She actually secretly sent him a message, telling him not to say anything about the dragon beheading platform and the Titan Spinosaurus. This meant that the only person she truly trusted was herself. She didn't even trust Taisher, the Divine King. She didn't want to share too much with Taisher. Yu Yuan subconsciously looked at the bronze coffin that revealed a corner. He wondered if Taisher knew about the Titan Spinosaurus in the dragon beheading platform. Also, if Taisher knew, how far had the Titan Spinosaurus evolved? The Cheelant's heart. He raised his eyebrows and thought of this matter again. He couldn't help but look at Chen Qinghuang again. The heart of the demon god and the peak foreign warriors of the outer realm was the source of their power. It was the most precious thing. And she and Taisher had already discussed it. "You are very important." The Empress's tone was indifferent. The corner of her mouth that was revealed under the beaded curtain twitched slightly. Yu Yuan coughed. Suddenly, he sensed the existence of another baby Titan Spinosaurus inside the bronze coffin. The purple-gold dragon egg, hatched with the blood of the great demon god Grek, seemed to be a little active in the huge bronze coffin that almost filled the underground of the planet. It was devouring the Qilin's demon blood. Yu Yuan, who was special in the Yang God, used the power of the origin of life. Not only could he sense it, but he also knew that its growth speed was far inferior to the one on the dragon beheading platform. Yu Yuan pondered for a moment, and realized that there were many reasons why the baby spirit he had hatched earlier than Ye Tian had. First of all, his origin of life was complete. Second, this baby was in the dragon beheading platform. There were the corpses of 3 dragon gods in the dragon beheading platform, dragon blood that it desperately wanted to help it transform quickly, and many bloodline crystal chains that could resonate with it. Because of this, its evolution speed was much faster than the one Taisher hatched. At this time, Yu Yuan thought of Qin Qinghuang's voice, telling him not to talk about the dragon beheading platform. Perhaps the Titanspinosaurus he hatched might target the one Taisher hatched if it rushed out of the dragon beheading platform first. 2 Titanspinosaurus at the same time, one strong and one weak, what would happen? With this in mind, Yu Yuan had a rough idea of what was going on. Whoosh! After Anwen disappeared and the underground cave closed, a tall man with long bluish-black hair and an incomparably tall figure quietly appeared with his upper body naked. His naked upper body was engraved with countless mysterious symbols, similar to the inscriptions on the bronze coffin. They seemed to contain many laws and mysteries. Strange rumbles came from his body, as if the great Tao was colliding. He had a handsome face and an extremely calm temperament, as if he had already seen through the wonders of all things. He didn't even care about life and death. The Qilin's heart will merge with your Yang spirit. Use it to break through to the freedom realm. He looked at Yu Yuan, who was standing shoulder to shoulder with Qin Qinghuang, and said with a joyful expression, "But let's not rush into it yet. We have to save the Qilin's heart for last. We have to be more patient and wait. Wait until..." As if he thought of something very interesting, he chuckled and said, "Wait until the demonic phoenix makes its decision, wait until Yuan Hao dies, and wait until Ji Tianyu shatters his deity position. As long as the Qilin's heart doesn't die, the deity position won't scatter. Is that it?" Yu Yuan asked. "Yes, as long as the demonic heart doesn't shatter, the deity position won't shatter, and the Qilin won't be completely dead." Genesis Supreme nodded. Seated on the bronze coffin, he looked up at Wang Chong and said, "The Qilin should have sent out a message earlier. Although the 2 of us have sealed the heavens and earth, I still don't know if the demonic phoenix on the other side of the river of stars has sensed it. I guess." He narrowed his eyes and thought for a moment. The demonic phoenix may have sensed something. She may have realized that the Qilin is about to die, but she can't make it. At this time, Han Shuyuan, Lin Doc, Tan Xiaotian, and Yuan Hao don't know that the Qilin is about to die. She can choose to stop. She can choose not to kill Yuan Hao. However, with her usual personality, since she has already made her move, she should have killed Yuan Hao even if she knew that the Qilin would die. Because Yuan Hao has become a problem. She can't stop the Qilin from dying, so she will pretend not to know, let Yuan Hao die, and shatter Ji Tianyu's deity position. If she's unhappy, she won't let the human race or Han Kuiyuan have an easy time. Therefore, the Qilin has to die, but after Yuan Hao and Ji Tianyu. This way, Haoran will have 3 empty deity positions. In addition to the 2 the Dragon of Spacetime asked for, there should be 1 more. I have to think carefully about the extra deity position. I have to see how I can maximize the benefits and make it acceptable to all parties. Taisher sat in the giant bronze coffin, the light of wisdom shining in his eyes. He seemed to be choosing a candidate. He was thinking about who to replace the extra deity position with and get the tacit consent of all parties. After this person succeeded in ascending to godhood, the Shunhun sect would definitely benefit from it. Looking at Taisher like this, Yu Yuan had a strange feeling in his heart. He felt that he was planning something and plotting against someone. Suddenly, he understood why he and Taisher didn't have such a close relationship in his first life. It was because he and Taisher were not the same kind of people. There was a big difference in personality. Back then, Yu Yu had Xianli by his side to deal with all kinds of sect affairs and relationship. She did her best for the future of the sect and worried about it. In the current human race, there was Lin Doc and Devil's Palace's Tan Xiaotian who were powerful in battle. However, the one who had been plotting for the human race, negotiating with the demon Phoenix, and scheming against the races beyond the sky was Xuantianzong's Han Kueyuan. In his first life, he also had such a person by his side, and that was Taisher in front of him. He and Yu Yu could be friends because Yu Yu was like him. He did everything possible to improve his own strength and didn't want to be distracted in this aspect. However, whether it was him, Yu Yu, Lin Doc, or Tan Xiaotian, they all needed such a person by their side. With such a person around, they could focus on fighting and not worry too much about miscellaneous things. Only then could they have the strongest battle strength. Yu Yuan opened his mouth, wanting to ask about the past. Taisher shook his head and said, I know what you want to ask, but you should try to recall everything about you. I can't tell you. First of all, I'm not you, and I don't know you that well. Secondly, if I say everything, it will undoubtedly be spoiling things through excessive enthusiasm. It will have a bad effect. Since you've already made this choice, and I respect your choice, I can't ruin it. The meaning behind his words was clear. If he told Yu Yuan everything about her first life, she would be able to learn everything that had happened to her. It might directly cause the Lunar Divine King to awaken in advance. This would go against Yu Yuan's original intention. Chapter 1554. Xuantianzong. Chao Jiazi and Ji Tianyu sat on the ground in a floating palace. This time, it was Ji Tianyu's true body instead of a Yin's soul. Grandmaster Ji, are you really? Chao Jiazi wanted to say something, but stopped himself. Ji Tianyu was dressed in a plain green robe. She wasn't adorned with any jewels or accessories. She looked refreshed and had an ethereal aura about her. Her body also exuded a natural fragrance of plant. It was very pleasant to the nose. She made people feel very comfortable, and it was very difficult to raise their guard against her. She was like a clear spring in a mountain stream or a cool breeze in a forest. The outcome was already decided. Ji Tianyu smiled. She could feel that Chao Jiazi truly felt sorry for her. Don't be sad, little Zhe. My Tao is a Howren plant, and I haven't been a god for very long. Even if my godhood is shattered, I can still survive. Instead, she was the one comforting Chao Jiazi. In the past, my existence helped the sect master improve slightly. When Lin Doc, Gu Xingkue, and the top cultivators of our human race were seriously injured, I could also provide some help. But I'm not good at fighting. It's just my nature. She shook her head helplessly. When I learned that the Ruo Sun divine tree had appeared in the Yingling realm of the Yingling realm, I knew that I had to give up my godhood. Chao Jiazi's heart shook. The fallen divine tree? Even if it's fallen and been tainted by the god of the origin realm, it's still the Ruo Sun divine tree. In the boundless universe, there are always some wonders that Howren can't compare to. Even Howang's god of wood couldn't do anything against it. Also, Ji Tianyu looked toward the heaven overlook mountain range and sighed. Even with the Zhu An's protection, I can still vaguely sense that it's trying to bewitch me and summon me to the heaven overlook mountain range. Chao Jiazi's expression changed drastically. Is that fallen divine tree that terrifying? To others it might not be that scary. Even people like Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian have the power to cut down the Ruo Sun divine tree. Ji Tianyu smiled bitterly. But I can't. I was suppressed in every way when I faced it, and I really might have been bewitched by it and fallen into its trap. Zhong Chichen is the space-time dragon. His attainments in time and space are not inferior to the void spirit. He even has some advantages. And Ji Tianyu felt helpless. In the future, I will help you cut down this fallen divine tree, Chao Jiazi said softly. Ji Tianyu chuckled in relief. Searching for the divine tree is only one of the reasons. The other reason is, I'm indeed a little weak. I can't keep up with the current era. Chao Jiazi kept calling it the fallen divine tree, but she always called it the Ruo Sun divine tree. Deep in her bones, she revered the divine tree. Even if the divine tree had been corrupted by the god of the origin realm and fallen. According to Tan Xiaotian, he seems to have created another deity throne. It's just that it hasn't matured yet, so it can't be turned into a deity throne. Chao Jiazi was sincerely thinking for her sake. Don't blame the sect master, Grandmaster Ji. Maybe when the time is right, he'll still take that deity throne for you. Ji Tianyu shook her head. She knew that Xuantianzong would produce another deity throne in the future. However, this deity throne had been decided the day Han Shuyuan discovered Chao Jiazi. In other words, she was giving up her deity throne for Long Jie and the spacetime dragon, but in reality, she was giving it to Chao Jiazi. Han Shuyuan would definitely find a way to take back the deity throne she gave up now. He would also do everything possible to help Chao Jiazi ascend to the deity throne. In Han Shuyuan's eyes, Chao Jiazi was a rare treasure that was comparable to Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian. When are you planning to merge the Tao? She changed the topic. Chao Jiazi stilled for a moment before replying, soon. What about the Tao merging treasures? 9 Heaven Palace seals. After the question and answer, the two of them fell silent. With a thought, Ji Tianyu's divine might suddenly enveloped the floating palace. Is this the sectmaster's idea? She asked again. Chao Jiazi nodded and said, yes. You can already split your divinities into 9? Ji Tianyu asked in astonishment. Chao Jiazi chuckled softly as 9 divinities flew out of the space between his eyebrows. He took out one Heaven Palace seal after another, and let the divinities enter them. One Heaven Palace seal after another flew lightly around the palace, displaying all kinds of wonders and performing different Tao magic. Alright, you can put them away. Looking at Chao Jiazi, who looked like he was presenting a treasure, the woman who was compatible with the Tao of Wood power smiled and nodded. Then, she suddenly said, don't you think this is a bit similar to the Sword Sect's heaven-opening sword formation? Chao Jiazi said bluntly. Didn't our sect master and the former sect master of the Sword Sect figure out the heaven-opening sword formation together? This heaven-opening sword formation requires the joint efforts of many sword immortals, but I heard that Yu Yuan managed to control it by himself in the domain of fireflies, and even severely injured the Chaos Kuan with it. You can do it too, Ji Tianyu said seriously. Chao Jiazi suddenly fell silent again. He pondered for a while, and then nodded in tacit agreement. Even though our sect master isn't your master, he was the one who found you. You can't imagine how excited and surprised he was when he found you and found out that you were born with 7 orifices and that you could multitask. From the day he discovered you, your great Tao had already been paved. Your master was only your guide, but the sect master had already silently arranged everything for you. The 9 Heaven Palace seals correspond to the 9 palaces in Xuantianzong, and they were refined in imitation of the Ghost Shaman sect's underground palace. If you can control the 9 Heaven Palace seals easily, you can control more. I also know that you're almost proficient in all of Xuantianzong's Taoist technique. Other than our sect master, no one in the sect knows about your core soul art. I'm just guessing our sect master probably combined the Ghost Shaman sect's soul art with all the exquisite soul arts he mastered, and maybe some of the Shinhan sect's soul art. That's why he created a customized soul art for you. I don't know how high this soul art can take you, and whether it can form a complete God's path, but I feel that he's leading you to the path of becoming a dragon slayer. Ji Tianyu said softly. She couldn't see through Han Kuiyuan's arrangements, so she could only guess based on her feelings. The Great Path is interconnected. The soul art I cultivate is similar to the Ghost Shaman sect and the Shunhun sects, but it's not the same. I don't know what will happen after I reach the end of my path. Our sect master himself said that he can't predict it. He only said that it should succeed. Chao Jiazi chose his words carefully, and a strange light shone on his face. I'm not afraid that you'll laugh at me, but from the day I met Yu Yuan, I wanted to get close to him. I felt very close to him. Maybe it's because our great paths are similar. It's just that I'm used to not revealing the soul art I cultivate and no one knows. He didn't want you to say it, did he? Ji Tianyu's mouth twitched. Chao Jiazi laughed and said, "That's what our sect master told me." Of course he didn't want anyone to know. After all, he and Demonic Phoenix murdered that person back then, thinking that that person's ideas and actions were wrong. Ji Tianyu's eyes had a trace of mockery. But now, he's nurturing you like he's found a treasure, and leading you down that path. Isn't that slapping his own face? Chao Jiazi's expression was solemn. Grandmaster Ji, please don't say that. I've already decided to shatter my deity seat. What's wrong with saying a few words? I've worked so hard for Howren for so many years, trying my best to make Howren have more spirit energy. I've saved so many people, when have I ever disobeyed him? I ascended to this deity seat for him and the sect, for the overall situation of Howren. I didn't do anything wrong. Ji Tianyu slowly closed her eyes, and there was nothing sadder than a dead heart. Crack! A crisp sound came from her mind, as if a green jade suddenly fell to the ground and was smashed into pieces. Suddenly, boundless golden divine radiance shrouded the sky and sea on the deep-sea Dragon Island. The azure sea surface had all turned into a brilliant golden color, and the sky was also filled with golden radiance. At this moment, no matter where they were, the experts and great demons all felt the changes in the sky and the earth on Dragon Island. Long Jie is about to become a god. A streak of origin energy is going straight from Xuantianzong to Dragon Island. Long Jie's attraction to the origin energy is so strong. Isn't the commotion caused by his ascension a bit too big? Countless people were shocked, and countless eyes were fixed on Dragon Island. With Dragon Island as the center, the sea and the sky within 10,000 miles of it all turned into a golden color. Spiritual energy from all directions gathered, and the sea roared angrily like a giant beast. Roar! A dragon's roar resounded in every corner of Howren. It was like a god that had been imprisoned for tens of thousands of years had finally escaped and could soar in the sky again. In Zuan, Yu Zhu and Jiningshuang's path to becoming a god couldn't be compared to Long Jie's. At this moment, many people suddenly realized that the Dragon Clan, who had been imprisoned for tens of thousands of years, was Hao Kuang's true favorite. They suddenly remembered that the Dragon Clan had once been the overlords of this world. The dragons were the reason why the Howren strength was known and recognized by all the races in Howren. Tongtian Trading Company. Shijinger Lulu, Zhong Lipan, Feng Zhong, Junchen, and the others were floating in the array, looking at deep-sea Dragon Island. Dragon Island was very far away from them, but the golden light was too dazzling. It was impossible not to see it. This commotion, Zhong Lipan clicked his tongue. He didn't expect Long Jie's path to becoming a god to be so powerful. It was far from what others could compare to. Taisher, please go to the desolate god swamp as soon as possible, and don't leave in the near future. Suddenly, the voice of the ruins of En's deity king came from Lulu's body. Lulu was stunned and asked in his heart, "Is it good or bad?" "It's good." Chapter 1555. At the heaven-reaching mountain range. At the entrance of the deep valley, Zuan placed the sky-observing mirror on the ground and condensed it into a small pond. When Yu Yuan and the others saw the golden light in the small pond, they couldn't help but gather around. They either stood or squatted, paying attention to every movement. G-Girl shattered her deity position without saying a word. She didn't even wait for old Han to return. The desolate god frowned slightly. He knew that Ji Tianyu probably had some complaints about Han Kuan-Yuan, but she couldn't do anything about it. She knows that there's no way she'll be able to keep her deity seat. Zuan sighed softly. He was actually much older than Ji Tianyu. As the guardian of the heaven-reaching mountain range, he had interacted with Ji Tianyu before. He had always had a good impression of her. He also knew that Ji Tianyu was doing her best for Howren. He couldn't find any fault with her. So he felt sorry for Ji Tianyu, that golden dragon. The white heaven tiger came over and glanced at the seemingly endless golden light in the pond. He could vaguely see a giant dragon soaring in it. Its dragon scales were trembling as it crazily devoured the golden energy. He, who had looked down on the dragon race, suddenly had a serious expression. He somewhat understood why even the demonic phoenix was afraid of the dragon race. Yu Yuan looked down and also saw that there seemed to be a dazzling golden light that was about to overflow from the sky observing mirror. Because of the sky observing mirror and the absence of his true body, he didn't know how terrifying the dragon aura emitted by Long Jie on Dragon Island in the deep sea was. But from what he saw, he felt that Long Jie's ascension might be much faster than that of Jining Shuang and Yu Zhu. In the pond, a large area of golden light was clearly gathering and shrinking. It was shrinking into the giant golden dragon's body. The speed at which Long Jie becomes a dragon god will break Howren's history. When that golden light disappears, he will directly transform into a level 10 dragon god. The desolate god sighed. After all, if it wasn't for the suppression of the dragon beheading platform and the suppression of the Great Path, he would have become a dragon god long ago. That's good, Zuan said calmly. Yu Yuan glanced at him. After he becomes a god, he will immediately rush out of Howren. He would go to the Starry River outside of Howren, to the territories of the Silver Scales, and many other outsider races to find and refine thousands of types of pure gold ores and merge them with his dragon body. If he wants to refine his fleshly body into the ultimate golden body, he has to do this. Zuan explained, I'm guessing that Zhong Qichen is already waiting for him in the outer realm. Zhong Qichen will definitely lead the way for him and help him open up spatial passageways so that he can travel through the various galaxies. At this point, Zuan seemed to have thought of something. He could not help but look at the origami. Tan Xiaotian explored the dark domain and created a new deity position. Could it be possible for Long Jie to condense it in a short period of time? The desolate god pondered for a moment before nodding gently. The possibility is very high. Why? Tianhu asked. Long Jie will definitely find the Shura of Gojoseon and Sabonis. Moreover, there's a high chance that he can kill the Shura of Gojoseon and use the Shura of Gojoseon's golden blood to forge his own dragon body. The desolate god took a deep breath and said with a serious expression, The Howren may not be as good as the other forces in the outer realm on some paths, but there are also some places where we are invincible. Others may be afraid of the Shura of Gojoseon, but in Long Jie's eyes, the Shura of Gojoseon is a big fat piece of meat. Once he becomes a god, the Shura of Gojoseon will be a lamb waiting to be slaughtered. He won't even be able to run away. After Long Jie rushes out of the outer realm, existences like the Shura of Gojoseon and President Li will be like glowing torches in his bloodline perception. He will be able to sense all of them. With Zhong Qichen leading the way, these people with auras similar to him will have nowhere to hide. As long as he can sense the direction, Zhong Qichen will be able to lead him there. Those whose auras are similar to his and whose great daos are connected to him can only wait for death. Tianhu's expression changed slightly. Before this, He never knew that the Shura of Gojoseon in the outer realm would be compared to a big fat piece of meat. He also didn't expect that Long Jie, who had been imprisoned in sword prison for many years, would have such terrifying power. Once Long Jie becomes a god, all those with auras similar to him inside and outside Howren would become his prey. Whether he would kill them or not depended on his mood. When Tan Xiaotian was in the Dark Realm, he was surrounded by Kadoras and Baylor. The Light Race and Star Race probably don't want to see the Shura of Gojoseon die, but I feel. The desolate god thought and suddenly said, I feel that when Long Jie finds the Shura of Gojoseon, Kadoras and Baylor won't appear. The great demon god Bertans may appear. He needs to rely on Zhong Chichen's power to deal with the Origin World Gate in Howren as soon as possible and prevent the god of the Origin World from devouring Howren. Also, he is the only one known to be able to kill Long Jie. He is the only one who isn't afraid of Long Jie breaking through to his strongest form and reappearing with the ultimate golden dragon body. If Long Jie can still, the old ape's body suddenly shook. He couldn't help but look at the sky. He thought of a possibility, but didn't dare to say it. What he wanted to say was, if Long Jie's ascension could suppress the demonic phoenix and give it a headache, Bertans would be happy to see it. Then, the desolate god thought about whether Bertans had secretly influenced the situation in Howren in his way. Long Jie's ascension and Zhong Chichen's ascension soon after, was the great demon god's arrangement? The old ape wasn't afraid of the demonic phoenix, but he was really afraid of the great demon god Bertans in outer space. He couldn't imagine how powerful Bertans was. Even the dragon slayer in his prime and the demonic phoenix in its strongest form had to work together to fight against the great demon god. The great demonic god Bertans was the oldest immortal realm expert. The golden dragon from ancient times had been hiding in the outer region of the Star River. He was an anomaly like him. However, the great demon god, who could kill the golden dragon, didn't care about him and let the dragon race run wild in outer space. It wasn't until the appearance of the moon that the golden dragon was ended and the dragon race's tyrannical rule over Howren was overthrown. What are you trying to say? Zuin said unhappily. The great demon god Bertans allowed the strongest golden dragon to appear. I think he would be happy to see it, the desolate god said. He didn't dare to say that the great demon god Bertans might be behind Long Jie's ascension. He didn't dare to say that even Han Kuiyuan might have helped the great demon god Bertans do what he wanted without knowing it. Because, if he said it all, and if it was true, all the supreme existences present would be traumatized when they thought of the great demon god Bertans, at this moment. Large patches of golden light in the pond under everyone's feet suddenly shrank. It was as if Long Jie had suddenly pulled it into his dragon body. The huge Long Jie swayed his dragon body in the sky like a continuous golden mountain range and flew toward outer space. His unique sharpness hadn't even gotten close to Howren's barrier when the Tao imprinted in his dragon blood pierced through the sky. After a carefree roar, Long Jie broke through the barrier and turned into a golden river of light, appearing in outer space. On Dragon Island's side, many dragons rose into the sky and let out all kinds of dragon roars. They seemed to be sending him off and also looking forward to his return in an even stronger form. Isn't this a little too fast? Qin Luo from the Red Devil School stared at the hole in the sky. She felt like she was dreaming. As soon as Long Jie got Ji Tianyu's origin energy, he instantly opened the path to becoming a god without anyone stopping him. Everyone stared at the changes on Dragon Island. They had just exchanged a few words, and he had succeeded in becoming a god. To him, becoming a level 10 dragon god was as easy as eating and drinking. On the other hand, Jining Shuang and Yu Zhu were still refining their deity positions and imprinting the Tao into them. Long Jie didn't seem to need to do this at all. The moment that origin energy merged with his dragon heart, he became a dragon god. There was no difficulty at all. Whoosh! Not long after Long Jie flew out of Howren, it suddenly crossed the barrier of Howren and flew in from outer space. Looking at this strange burning cloud, the desolate god, Zhu Un and Tianhu were silent. Even Qin Luo didn't gloat at this time. She also remained silent. Yu Yuan looked up and smelled the scent of a divine weapon. He could faintly sense the scent of many strange heavenly flames. Then, he knew what had happened. The result was out. Yuan Hao died in outer space. His Tao integration divine weapon returned with a ball of Howren's origin energy. According to the legends, Yuan Hao was originally a farmer. He stepped on the yellow soil and worked hard all day. In his spare time, he would sit in front of a dilapidated house and stare blankly at the burning clouds in the sky. Until one day the burning cloud suddenly fell, and a burning man walked out of it. This man took Yuan Hao to the primal Yang sect and began to teach him the secret method of refining heavenly flames. He also gave him the burning cloud that Yuan Hao had been staring at all day. The burning cloud was alive. It was formed by countless clusters of flames from outer space. The primal Yang sect master before Yuan Hao sat in it. He looked at Yuan Hao quietly from inside, trying to see if Yuan Hao had the qualifications and whether he was suitable for this god's path. In the end, Yuan Hao was favored by him. Not long after he was brought to the primal Yang sect, he shone brightly. Then, step by step, Yuan Hao became the primal Yang sect master today. Old man, if you want to die, just die peacefully. Why do you have to look for trouble? Qin Luo suddenly stood up and cursed at the burning cloud. She couldn't stay silent anymore. The divine weapon of the primal Yang sect was called the burning cloud. After flying in the sky of Howren for a while, it suddenly flew toward the Qiyang Empire in the Qianxian continent. Then, in the territory of the Qiyang Empire, the burning cloud landed on a towering dark red mountain peak. The Howren's origin energy wrapped in the burning cloud instantly returned to the ground. However, the divine weapon, the burning cloud, carried Yuan Hao's knowledge of refining heavenly flames. This complete divine path, along with the burning cloud, was integrated into a person's body. This person was actually the Flaming Sun Emperor, the Emperor of the Qiyang Empire. In the past, Zhou Tsangmin was by this person's side, helping him expand his territory. Although the two of them were emperor and minister, they were actually like brothers. Chapter 1556. In outer space, Taisher, who was sitting on top of the bronze coffin, suddenly raised his eyebrows and said, "Yuan Hao is dead." In the air, Yu Yuan, who was hovering beside Chen Qinghuang, was looking at the Qilin that had shrunk to the size of a lion. Hearing this, he was shocked. So fast. Chen Qinghuang, who was wearing the emperor's crown, was indifferent. Her gaze behind the bead curtain was still on the Qilin. She felt that the flesh and blood she could collect from the Qilin's body was decreasing. As for the blood, it had flowed out long ago. Not a drop was left. However, the Qilin's slightly shriveled body was still beating. He was not dead. The commotion caused by Long Jie's ascension was too big. It exceeded everyone's expectations. Han Guiyuan must have been shocked. Taisher was here, but he knew what had happened in his homeland through the godly king of the ruins of the end in Howren and the news from the Tongtian Trading Company. He twitched the corner of his mouth and said, after all, Han Guiyuan had never seen the dragon race's ascension phenomenon in ancient times. Han Guiyuan realized that once Long Jie reached his strongest form as a golden dragon, Lin Dok and Tan Xiaotian might not be able to kill Long Jie. However, the demonic phoenix said that if she was given Yu Yu, even if Long Jie returned at his strongest, she would be able to kill him as long as he was in Howren. Taisher frowned. At this time, Chen Qinghuang, who didn't like to talk much, suddenly said, "She and another person who is proficient in the secrets of the soul can indeed kill Long Jie in Howren. When he said this, Taisher smiled bitterly. If you say they can, then they can. He knew very well that the immortal bird in front of him and the demonic phoenix of Howren were mortal enemies. Both sides knew each other very well. Since Chen Qinhuang said so, it should not be wrong. Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian also felt the terror of Long Jie. Thus, the heavily injured Yuan Hao was persuaded by Han Yuan and chose to shatter his own deity seat. Taisher rubbed his temples and suddenly felt a headache coming on. That sword sect master, who is not very smart, directly flew out from the sea of stars outside Howren. Based on the direction and trajectory, they seem to be coming for us. Taisher thought about Lin Doc's prowess and his temperament. He couldn't figure it out. What do you mean? Yu Yuan asked curiously. Ji Tianyu and Yuan Hao destroyed their deity thrones one after another, which should have angered him. Han Guiyuan dissuaded him and Tan Xiaotian from attacking the demonic phoenix. He must have wanted to kill the Qilin. Taisher had a strange expression on his face. Demonic phoenix didn't tell anyone that the Qilin was about to die? Yu Yuan was surprised. I don't think so. Taisher nodded. Because if Han Yuan knew that the Qilin was going to die, he would have protected Yuan Hao. If demonic phoenix didn't say anything, Han Yuan would have had no choice but to sacrifice Ji Tianyu and Yuan Hao in order to get rid of the Origin Realm Gate in Howren as soon as possible. As for the Qilin, we have to think about it at length. So demonic phoenix hid the fact that the Qilin was in trouble and was determined to kill Yuan Hao. Yu Yuan understood and then asked, Lin Doc didn't know about the Qilin either, so how did he find the right direction and come here to kill the Qilin? Because he's been active in a nearby star system, Taisher explained. What do you plan to do next? Yu Yuan asked. It's simple. Since Ji Tianyu and Yuan Hao are dead, you will take the Qilin's heart and return to the great desolate God Lake. There, you only need to use the dragon beheading platform to shatter the Qilin's heart, and Howren's origin power will dissipate. Lulu is already waiting for you in the great desolate God Lake. He'll use the origin power in his heart to attempt to become a Yao god. As for you, you will refine the Qilin's heart with your Yang soul and try to break through to the Freedom Realm with the boundless blood power contained within. Taisher had long since come up with a plan. Don't worry. If the desolate god learns that the Qilin's death has given Lulu a new godly seat, he'll definitely help you. With him in the great desolate God Lake, almost no one will be able to destroy Lulu's path to godhood. The only one who might be able to fight him to a standstill in his great desolate God Lake is demonic phoenix. However, since Lulu is going to become a true Yao god instead of a human, demonic phoenix probably won't stop him. Even though demonic phoenix doesn't like Lulu, she has allowed him to live and imprisoned him in sword prison instead of killing him. I know that even though she doesn't like him, she still values his battle prowess very much. Don't underestimate Lulu. Once he succeeds in becoming a Yao god, he might be even stronger than the Qilin. For demonic phoenix, even if the ancient Yao and Howren are dissatisfied with her and hate her, as long as they are strong enough to increase her strength and give her great benefits, she'll allow them to live in this world. For example, the desolate god. The ancient Yao that can't kill her will only make her stronger. If this Yao is still loyal to her, then that's for the best. If he's not loyal, she can also tolerate him if he's strong enough to give her a considerable amount of blood power. Of course, if he defected to her mortal enemy, then it's a different story. Taisher glanced at Chen Qinghuang. The Empress snorted coldly. Howren. Not long after Blazing Cloud landed in the Scarlet Sun Empire, Han Shuyuan's figure once again walked out of the Xianhuang banner. He looked a little tired and sat down beside the banner. Then, he stared at Qin Luo of the Red Devil School and said, I don't want to see you kill the Flaming Sun Emperor and take Blazing Cloud away. Qin Luo's face stiffened. That was exactly what he was thinking. He planned to go to the Scarlet Sun Empire immediately after the meeting ended and kill the Flaming Sun Emperor on the spot. He would also take Blazing Cloud and hand it over to Zhou Tsangmin. As for whether or not Zhou Tsangmin would blame him, he didn't care at all. Since the Flaming Sun Emperor had become Zhou Tsangmin's enemy, and since there was no one in the Primal Yang sect who could contend against him, he could only do as he pleased. Qin Luo, you should know that you were able to obtain a godhood position and enter the sun beyond the heavens because of my permission. Han Shuyuan wasn't polite at all. You can't hide any of your little tricks from me in vast dusk. So I'll say it again. From the moment Blazing Cloud merged with the Flaming Sun Emperor, he became a member of the Primal Yang sect. Since no one from the Primal Yang sect has emerged after the deaths of Li Tianxin and Yuan Hao, it's already a lower sect. I promised Yuan Hao that I would help look after the Primal Yang sect. So, after his death, the God's Path can only be fought over by Zhou Tsangmin and the Flaming Sun Emperor. I won't allow you to interfere. Deep in his heart, he felt a little guilty. So, he would definitely do what he promised Yuan Hao. He also had the ability to do so. The Flaming Sun Emperor's realm, talent, and knowledge of the heavenly fire Tao were naturally inferior to Zhou Tsangmin. But after Blazing Cloud merged with him, Yuan Hao selflessly shared all the mysteries of the heavenly fire god's path with the Flaming Sun Emperor. This emperor of the Scarlet Sun Empire had the possibility of catching up. Han Shuyuan would arrange for him to immediately abdicate the emperor's position and enter the Primal Yang sect as Yuan Hao's disciple. In the future, he would be Zhou Tsangmin's strongest opponent on the Great Path. Since you've said so, I can only listen to you. Qin Luo braced herself and agreed. My sect's demonic seed's talent is far from what the Flaming Sun Emperor can compare to. Even if he has Blazing Cloud, he might not win. Also, you know that when he was in the Scarlet Sun Empire, it was also him who opened up new territories as the imperial teacher. He was the one who obtained all the military merits. The Flaming Sun Emperor's own ability isn't outstanding. After saying this, Qin Luo turned into a blazing sun and penetrated the heaven-ascending mountain range's boundary, heading straight for the sky. Lin Doc and Tan Xiaotian had yet to return. Ji Tianyu and Yuan Hao had shattered their deity positions. He knew that this far-reaching meeting was actually coming to an end. Since there was nothing else for him to do, he returned to the sky with a trace of dissatisfaction in his heart. He also wanted to ask the people in the outer realms what had happened. Then that's it. I will send a message to the outside world and ask Zhong Qichen to return to Haoran as soon as possible. Han Shuyuan sighed softly and said to Zuan, you should also be prepared. After Zhong Qichen becomes a god, the first thing he will have to deal with is the gate of origin behind us. During this time, I will have to trouble you to take care of it. Ji Tianyu shattered her deity position. Under his persuasion, Yuan Hao also shattered his deity position when he was seriously injured. Yuan Hao died on the spot. Throughout Yuan Hao's life, he had been the one who looked after him and supported him. He had also helped Yuan Hao several times at critical moments, allowing Yuan Hao to turn danger into safety, allowing Yuan Hao to ascend to the throne of the Primal Yang sect's sect master, allowing Yuan Hao to ascend to godhood using the Heavenly Fire Great Path, and even obtaining Yuan Hao's godhood. However, it was also him who personally destroyed Yuan Hao not long ago. It was as if he had painstakingly built a magnificent castle with many blocks, but because he had to use those blocks to build something else, he had no choice but to knock it down with a loud bang. At this moment, he also felt a little uncomfortable, so he waved his hand casually and entered the Xian Huang Dao flag. The Xian Huang Dao flag whizzed out and disappeared as soon as it left the heaven-ascending mountain range. I have something to talk to Xianli. Yu got up, informed Yu Yuan, and floated away. Be careful of Tan Xiaotian, Yu Yuan said softly. Yes. Yu had already left the heaven ascending mountain range. In this way, only Zuan, Yu Yuan, the Sky Tiger, and the Desolate God were left. I'm also going back to the Goblin Temple. The White Sky Tiger saw that things had come to this and that the meeting was over. He bowed respectfully to the Elder Ape and flew away without looking back. At this critical moment, the Elder Ape stood firmly by his side and tried his best to protect him. He had to be grateful. Lin Doc, Tan Xiaotian, and Mo Baichuan, who left, probably won't come again. The Elder Ape grinned. He knew that when the Xian Huangdao flag left, it meant that the meeting was over. Sigh, what a pity that the Qilin escaped. As soon as he finished speaking, the Elder Ape's body trembled slightly. Yu Yuan's Yin deity soul also trembled slightly. In an instant, scenes of memories appeared in his Yin deity, turned into tiny light spots, and merged into the depths of his soul. In the heaven overlooking mountain range, Zuan, who was holding the sky observing mirror in his hand, was shocked. Through Yu Yuan's floating Yin divinity, he caught a glimpse of a few scenes that flashed across her mind. He saw the graceful giant green bird in the outer galaxy, the Qilin's figure, and the faint bronze coffin under the cracks in the earth. At this moment, Yu Yuan's body and sun deity appeared in the destruction lair with the dragon-slaying platform and the Qilin's heart. As soon as he returned to Howran, his Yin deity instantly reconnected with his body. Everything he experienced outside Howran was naturally imprinted on his Yin deity. Zuan, the ruler of this world, held the sky-observing mirror and saw something faintly. As for the Qilin's heart, as soon as it appeared in the Desolate God Great Lake, the Desolate God, who was the ruler of that world, immediately sensed it. Therefore, Zuan and the Desolate God both guessed what had happened. The Qilin was also finished. Chapter 1557. How did you do it? The Desolate God's eyes widened as he looked at Yu Yuan's Yin spirit in the Heaven Ascension mountain range. He scratched his head in excitement, wishing he could return to the swamp immediately. He couldn't see the flashing images in Yu Yuan's Yin spirit's mind like Zuan. However, in the swamp he controlled, Yu Yuan's true body appeared with the Qilin's heart. He knew that the Qilin of the Goblin Temple must have been killed by the Shenhun sect in outer space. The Ultimate and Apocalypse were both in the Howran macro-world at the moment, while the mysterious Soul Capturer God was in outer space. He didn't think that Taisher alone could kill the Qilin and let Yu Yuan bring back the Qilin's heart. There's also the Empress who knows destruction, death, and rebirth. Zuan took a deep breath and replied to the Desolate God for Yu Yuan. Now that the Qilin is dead, I'm afraid the demonic phoenix will go crazy. Lu, the Desolate God raised his eyebrows and suddenly slapped his thigh. His face glowed. Not long ago, Lu came to the swamp from the Tongtian Trading Company and never left. I'm here to attend the meeting. I'm afraid that old Han will figure out something, so I didn't ask Lu. Heh. The old ape laughed and squinted. The more he looked at Yu Yuan, the more he liked him. Are you going to give the Qilin's deity position to Lu? Taisher arranged it that way, Yu Yuan said frankly. What a fine Genesis Supreme! Immortal bird! Well done! The old ape danced. He suddenly stood up on the grayish-white rock, then squatted down and took a puff of his pipe. Then, he bared his teeth, and a violent demonic energy almost tore apart the white mist of the Heaven Ascension mountain range. Since Lu is in my swamp, no one can stop him from becoming a god. After letting loose a loud roar, the old ape reverted to its original form. It was a massive gray ape that was over 10 million feet tall, and it was even taller than the Heaven Ascension peak. White clouds floated around his neck as his demonic eyes stared at the sky canopy of the realm barrier. Stepping on the Heaven Ascending mountain range, the old ape with its head protruding from the horizon opened its mouth, revealing rows of sharp white teeth. Lu will ascend to godhood in the heaven-reaching mountain range with the position of Qilin. From now on, the Great Lake will be sealed off. Great demons of the Freedom Realm and Level 9 will no longer be allowed to set foot here. Roar. The desolate god roared at the Milky Way outside of Hauran, then returned to the great marsh from the heaven overlooking mountain range. Whoosh, whoosh. The Great Lake was connected to the rivers and lakes of the outside world. The speed of the flowing water increased, and thick water psionic energy began to gather in the Great Lake through the rivers and lake. Within the Qiyang Empire. Just as the Xian Huang Dao banner descended, Han Shuyuan, who was preparing to enter the belly of the blazing Sun Emperor's cultivation mountain, suddenly paled within the banner. Whoosh! Han Shuyuan's true body walked out, holding the Xian Huang Dao banner in one hand. He stood on the dark red mountain peak and secretly sensed. In the depths of the underground, he used his deity position and the power of the Xian Huang Dao banner to faintly sense that the origin energy formed after Yuan Hao's death was still in that strange place that no one could reach. Only the strongest who had obtained a deity position could vaguely sense it. When he discovered that the origin energy that he had purposely left for Zhong Qichen hadn't moved, Han Shuyuan immediately let out a sigh of relief. Then, he began to deduce and ponder. Who was it that killed the Qilin so quickly? He knew that it couldn't be Lindok. Lindok couldn't find the Qilin so quickly. Even if he did, it would take some time before he could kill the Qilin. If the demonic phoenix interfered, the Qilin wouldn't have died. Yuan Hao had just died, and the Qilin had ended up like this. There was clearly something fishy. He had left the experts of Hauran in the heaven-reaching mountain range, and Lindok, Tan Xiaotian, and the demonic phoenix couldn't do anything. The Qilin had died after Yuan Hao. It could only be an external force. A while later, Han Shuyuan let out a soft snort. He already had an answer in his mind. While he was in the Scarlet Sun Empire, he turned around and headed towards the forbidden land of Fallen Moon. He immediately sensed the auras of Tian Qi and Gui Su. Both God Kings are here. How could Taisher kill the Qilin so easily? It's not enough. There must be another powerful existence who hates the Goblin Temple and the demonic phoenix. Han Shuyuan muttered in his mind. Although he hadn't seen anything, he was slowly deducing everything. It was as if he had seen the Shenhun sect's plan, Taisher's plan, and the immortal bird's participation. At the Great Marsh, after walking out of the lair of destruction, Yu Yuan and Lu Lu appeared beside a clear lake. This was the forbidden land where the desolate gods meditated for a long time. Lu Lu and Yu Yuan had received permission to enter the lair of destruction. A deep cyan heart the size of a watermelon appeared in front of Yu Yuan and Lu Lu. It had shrunk countless times, but it was brimming with boundless blood power. Lu Lu's eyes burned with passion. She breathed heavily, but she didn't make a sound. Yu Yuan summoned the prismatic dragon-slaying platform from his acupoints and stabbed its sharp end towards the Qilin's heart. Pooh! The moment a small section of the dragon-slaying platform stabbed into the Qilin's heart, hundreds of fine bloodline crystal chains shattered instantly. The thickest bloodline crystal chain among them gave off rumbling sounds of the law of storm. However, it didn't last for long before it exploded as well. This thick and obvious bloodline crystal chain looked like a divine crystal. After it exploded, it immediately overflowed with a mysterious aura. At the same time, it shone with a strange, hazy luster as it started to liquefy. Yu Yuan had been with Yu Yu in the miasma sea of rosy cloud. He had seen Yu Yu escort the colorless stream that represented a deity position. When he saw the changes in front of him again, he immediately knew what it was. It was the essence of Hauran's origin that could forge a deity position and condense a bloodline crystal in the heart of a great demon. At this moment, Yu Yuan suddenly sensed that the Titanspinosaurus in the dragon-slaying platform was roaring in a low voice from within the purple-gold dragon egg. The roar was filled with both desire and fear. It seemed that it desperately desired something, but knew that it didn't have enough strength right now. It hadn't grown up yet, and couldn't bear it for the time being. Its roar rang out in the dragon-slaying platform, and only Yu Yuan could hear it. Lulu didn't know anything. Thank you. Lulu sank into the lake in his human form and instantly turned into a giant green snake. Then, layers of ripples appeared in the lake in the depths of the lake. Inside the lake, his emerald eyes flickered with strange flames like bright lanterns. He suddenly felt that before he even started to exert his strength, the lake that he was submerged in had already drawn the spiritual energy of water that he urgently needed from the various waters of Hauran. At the same time, he heard the roar of the origami and the announcement of the seal of the lake. A pure colorless stream that contained Hauran's origin was formed by the shattered bloodline crystal in the Kirin's heart and flew out of the Kirin's heart lightly. The dragon-slaying platform was still piercing the Kirin's heart. The vast flesh and blood energy in the Kirin's heart didn't diminish. However, after the stream that contained Hauran's origin left the Kirin's heart, Yu Yuan felt the loss of the cub. This meant that what it desired wasn't the Kirin's heart, nor the majestic demonic energy inside. It wanted Hauran's origin. It obviously couldn't absorb it, at least not for the time being. However, it was still full of desire and a strange nostalgia. Yu Yuan frowned and pondered. What was the most precious origin that could create a deity position in the entire Hauran world? Why did it desire it so much? Yu Yuan. The origami in the form of an old ape roared and shrank again, reaching the side of the lake. He looked at the pure stream that represented a deity position. After leaving the Kirin's heart, it slowly flowed to the lake where Lulu was submerged. The old ape grinned and patted Yu Yuan's shoulder happily. Yu Yuan, with his yang spirit in his body, sank to the bottom of the lake after being patted by the old ape. Sorry, I'm a little excited today. The old ape laughed. Knowing that the Kirin was dead and Lulu was going to take over the deity position, he was full of smiles and almost couldn't control himself. Yu Yuan, who was rooted in the earth like a tree, had a serious expression. The origami's casual pat was slightly out of control. The unreasonable brute force that emerged from it was quite exaggerated in Yu Yuan's eyes. If the casual pat landed on some of the mountains inside and outside of Hauran, the mountains would collapse and the earth would crack. This was the origami's unintentional action. Let me ask you something. If the Kirin's heart was pierced by the dragon beheading platform in outer space, where would the origin that belonged to Hauran go? Yu Yuan asked humbly. It will return to Hauran. The origami stood by the lake and looked at Lulu, who was already sucking in the clear and pure stream. He smiled brightly and said, "Other than the great demon god Bertans, no one can destroy the origin of Hauran. Even he can only destroy it, but he can't merge it. The origin of Hauran can only be refined by Hauran beings who have reached the level of deity position. Moreover, they can only be refined within Hauran. So, if the Kirin died in outer space, its origin would be guided by Hauran and return on its own. Of course, the speed would be very slow. If Bertans intercepted it halfway, it would be possible for him to destroy it directly." The old ape obviously knew about the mysteries of the deity position and the origin, so he casually revealed the inside story. "Then, what is the origin of Hauran? Where is it?" Yu Yuan asked again. The old ape turned his head and looked away from Lulu in the lake to Yu Yuan. "Where is it? Those who have obtained a deity position and have the origin can vaguely feel it. However, we can only guess what it is because we can't reach its original location." "Where is it originally in Hauran?" Yu Yuan asked curiously. "It is in the heart of Hauran. The outer layer is the most terrifying flame of the Earth's core. Demonic Phoenix, all the dragons, and all the human cultivators can't pass the flame of the earth's core and reach the heart of Hauran. Since no one can reach it, no one can truly see it, and no one knows how it was formed. The origami chuckled. Everyone can only guess how it was formed, why it can condense a deity position, and why there are so many mysteries. Oh, that's not right. The old ape slapped his head as if he thought of something. He stared at the dragon-slaying platform and said, "In theory, only the former dragonslayer can pass through the flame of the earth's core as a pure soul and see the origin of Hauran up close. But he never admitted it." Chapter 1558. After the essence of the deity position flowed into the clear lake, it was immediately attracted by the green willow. Yu Yuan could see that the mysterious essence of the deity position was slowly moving towards the giant snake body of the green willow. The reluctant baby Titanspinosaurus gradually calmed down, no longer releasing its desire and longing. "Dragon Slayer," Yu Yuan muttered to himself. Suddenly, he felt a vague memory stirring in the depths of his main soul, but it was suppressed by his main soul, not allowing it to shine. That vague memory seemed to be related to the deity position origin, as if it was an extremely important and secret matter. Combined with what the old ape said, he suspected that in his first life, he might have crossed the earth core fire in the form of a pure soul and seen that thing directly. At this time, the deep cyan Qilin heart flew slowly towards the dragon-slaying platform along with the essence of the deity position origin. Inside the dragon-slaying platform, Yu Yuan's yang spirit, who had been waiting for a long time, was waiting. It was also his yang spirit that was pulling the Qilin heart, wanting to devour the vast blood energy contained in the deity position origin's heart inside the dragon-slaying platform. But the strange thing was, he discovered that there was not a single bloodline crystal chain in the depths of the dense flesh and blood energy in the Qilin heart. The moment the dragon-slaying platform stabbed down, the bloodline divine crystal that represented the law of storm exploded. The other deity position origin's innate bloodline divine abilities that should have been imprinted in the Qilin heart also shattered. When the deity position cracked, the wonders contained in the Qilin heart and the other mysteries he had comprehended all disappeared. This was a bit abnormal, because when Lin Doc killed Li Sha with one strike, the drops of silver-like blood essence that Li Sha had comprehended contained the essence of the moon. Yu Yuan could also comprehend the essence of the moon by refining it with his yang spirit. Therefore, his yang spirit could simulate and perform moon divine abilities. If he wanted to, he could even use Li Sha's bloodline to turn his yang spirit into a member of the Moonlight People. However, the bloodline crystal chains that should have existed in the Qilin heart all exploded with the deity positions shattering. Therefore, he asked the desolate god for advice. It was erased by the demonic phoenix. The desolate god let out a cold harumph as he looked at the heavenly curtain and said, "Even though she's in the starry river outside of Hauran, when she sensed the divine storm crystal in the Qilin's heart shattering, she erased all of the Qilin's bloodline crystal chains, including the other bloodline crystal chains the Qilin was born with. Therefore, the Kirin's heart you have now only contains rich blood energy and no bloodline laws. Fortunately, you're in the Great Marsh and not anywhere else in Hauran. Otherwise, even the blood energy in the heart of the Qilin will not be able to be brought to the dragon beheading platform for your yang spirit to absorb." Desolate God told him the inside story and said, "Other than the origin energy that was fused with the Qilin's heart and the origin energy that contained the divine storm crystal, she can directly erase or extract everything related to blood energy and bloodlines. In short, in the great world of Hauran, she can interfere with anything related to blood energy. You can think of her as a yang meridian of Hauran. That's easier to understand." Speaking of this, a bitter and helpless look appeared on the desolate god's face. "I've never experienced the golden age of the dragons. I only became a Yao god after I, and other human experts overthrew the rule of the dragons in the Shunhun sect. I don't know much about the destruction of the dragons, but I know that the Shunhun sect was overthrown. When she attacked the Shunhun sect, I didn't want to help, so I simply went to the Starry River outside of the Starry River. However, as soon as she started to display her power, I was shocked to discover that I was losing blood power at an alarming rate after I slipped into the Starry River. Do you know what that felt like? The old ape's face was filled with anger. She didn't even need to tell me. She wanted to borrow your flesh energy, and she could extract it directly. It was at that moment that I realized that in her eyes I, the Qilin, and the ancient god of Golden Elephant were all her puppets. So I stayed in the Great Marsh all the time. As long as I was in the Great Marsh, she couldn't use my blood energy at will. With these words, Yu Yuan gained a better understanding of Howren's demonic phoenix. The demonic phoenix in Howren was equivalent to the origin of the Yang Meridian being in the origin blood continent. She could actually directly erase the bloodline crystal chains branded in the Qilin's heart after its death. If the Qilin hadn't been in the Great Marsh, even the blood energy in the Qilin's deep cyan heart might have been taken away by her. If the desolate god left the Great Marsh that he had built with all his heart, and went somewhere else, his flesh energy would also be forcibly extracted by the demonic phoenix. Yu Yuan felt that this situation was a bit similar to the blood slaves that the great demonic god Grek had refined. When he had treated in Ziqing, he seemed to be able to directly extract her flesh energy and use it for himself when he needed it. The difference was that the blood slaves that the great demonic god Grek had refined were completely obedient to him, and had lost their own intelligence and thoughts. The desolate god could resist the demonic phoenix. Although it might not be able to, at least it had self-awareness, and could still make some preparations. It wasn't a blood puppet that was completely enslaved. Green Willow, U2, White Tiger, as long as they are Howren beings, and their flesh energy is rich enough, she can extract their blood energy when she needs it, when she is in danger? Yu Yuan was shocked. Yes. The desolate god felt very powerless when it said this. Other than the descendants of the Titanspinosaurus, such as Anwen and Ziqing, who have already mutated, there are also people like you. As long as the other Howren beings have rich flesh energy, as long as she needs it, she can forcibly take their blood energy. As for you two, because of her special body, she seems to have comprehended and refined part of the great demonic god's blood energy. Perhaps I can only say that there is a chance that we can escape from her. Tianhu, Green Willow, the other great demons, the ancient desolate sects experts like Zhong Li De, and the Shunhun sects Tianqi. The stronger your flesh and blood is, the more you will be affected by her. Yu Yuan was deeply shaken by the demonic phoenix's terror, the uniqueness of the Howren, and the suppression it had over all living beings in this great world. Yu Yuan suddenly realized that if he continued to make breakthroughs in the Tao of life that he had been focusing on in this life, he would inevitably have a fierce conflict with the demonic phoenix. Outside the sky, on the bright moon, Yu Mu, who cultivated the sword of sky water, lowered his head and sighed dejectedly. Fan Heching came out of the Rift Yen Islands and told him about Green Willow's attempt to break through to the Yao God realm. Yu Mu was immediately discouraged. He sat in the bright silver building built by the Sword Sect for a long time without saying a word. I didn't expect you to have thoughts of breaking through to the Paramount Realm. Fan Heching looked curiously at the great sword immortal in front of him, who was famous for his laziness in the Sword Sect. You're so talented. If you work hard these years, you might be able to reach the late stage of the Freedom Realm. I thought that you were aware that our Sword Sect only had 2 divine thrones for a very long time, so you gave it up yourself. No matter how much I don't care, I still want to have hope. Yu Mu rolled his eyes. Once Green Willow becomes a god, I have no hope. They both walked the great Tao of water. If Green Willow became a god, his path to godhood would be cut off. It would be strange if he was happy. A Yao god is not a human's essence soul. He will die in the end, Fan Hitching comforted. Even if you want to persuade me, you don't have to say this. Old Fan, you're really not a good talker. I'll die of anger if I talk to you. Yumu didn't want to talk to him. Green Willow will die, but if I don't get a godhood, I will die too. Also, you know that unless we become gods, we can't compare to the Yao god in terms of lifespan. I can live for thousands of years in the Freedom Realm. But when Green Willow became a level 9 Demon King, he had a lifespan of more than 10,000 years. When he becomes a Yao god, his lifespan will increase by a lot. It's normal for him to live for tens of thousands of years. If I don't become a god, how can I outlast Green Willow? By the time he dies naturally, I'll have died countless times. The more Yumu thought about it, the sadder he felt. It was true that humans broke through realms quickly. They had a clear advantage over the Yao god in this aspect. However, although their lifespan would increase due to their realms, it was still incomparable to the Yao gods. Only those who became gods could live forever. Otherwise, even those at the peak of the Freedom Realm, like Zuan, couldn't live for more than 10,000 years. The Yao god was different. If a level 9 Demon King didn't die in battle, he could easily live for 10,000 years. After becoming a Yao god, he could live for another 10,000 years. Although it wasn't eternal life, it was beyond the reach of human experts who hadn't become gods. Therefore, unless Green Willow died, Yumu had no hope at all. Why don't you try another godhood path? Fan Hitching suggested. Another godhood path? It's not that simple. How can I change my godhood path so easily? Go back to Hauran and the Leiyan Islands. Don't provoke me, okay? Yumu almost vomited blood because of his words. My Tao is close to water. If I want to change my Tao, I'll find a similar one. The change of water is nothing more than ice. Do you want me to kill Senior Sister Ji and take her godhood path? I'm not tired of living. Before Fan Hitching could open his mouth to speak, Yumu crushed the Sword of Shattering into pieces. He didn't want to hear any more nonsense from Fan Hitching. Voodoo. Goo worms flew in the valley like colorful fireflies. Xianli narrowed her eyes and looked at the Wu ghost inside the goo worms. The Wu ghost he refined was merging with the worm's soul and gradually changing. He was thinking whether he should get a batch of goo worms and put them in the colorful cloud miasma sea next to him. Whoosh! Yu floated over and stopped in front of Xianli. Looking at the flying goo worms, he felt the magic of two souls merging. He couldn't help but say, "You haven't been idle. Hey, isn't this the first ghost god in Hauran history, Yu?" Xianli squinted at him and immediately sneered. "Why bother you to come here? It should be me, Xianli, who went to the Land of Fear to visit you, right? Why don't you go back first, and I'll go to the Land of Fear in your territory and ask your Ghost King to make an exception so that I can see you. You're still as mean as ever." Yu's eyes were indifferent, without sadness or joy. He was used to Xianli's sarcasm. It didn't affect him at all. He didn't want to argue with Xianli. He got straight to the point. "I killed Zhu Zhenxiu, so this godhood position should belong to us. So I'm sure I can arrange it. The one in the Goblin Temple also needs my power. And Yushu has her special ability, so it's easier for her to become a god. Later, if I want to get the godhood position for you, you need me and the Ghost Witch sect to make contributions. Only if we are meaningful to Hauran will Han Kuiyuan and the one in the Goblin Temple give us the godhood position. My idea is that since the gate of origin is Hauran's pain, we can start from there." Yu Shui voiced his thoughts. Xianli was surprised and said, "Speaking of the gate of origin, I have something to discuss with you. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.